The Sahara's heat shimmered above ancient sand, distorting the horizon into waves of ochre and gold. Daniel Jackson knelt in the excavation trench, carefully brushing centuries of desert from hieroglyphs that shouldn't exist. The symbols were Egyptian, unmistakably so, but the arrangement defied everything he'd learned in both conventional archaeology and his time with the Stargate program. These weren't prayers to Ra or Apophis. These were warnings. "Daniel, you seeing this?" His graduate assistant, Marcus, pointed toward the northwestern sky where clouds gathered with unnatural speed. "In the Sahara." "Clouds." Daniel stood, pushing his glasses up his nose as he tracked the formation. "Dark. Roiling. Moving against the wind." "That's not meteorologically possible," he muttered, then caught himself. After 3 years of stepping through the Stargate, he'd learned that impossible was just a word people used before they understood the science. "Everyone, pack the sensitive equipment. Get it in the trucks." The storm descended with predatory intent. Lightning forked through the clouds in colors Daniel had only seen once before, when SG-1 had accidentally activated an ancient device on P3X-774. Purple. Silver. A blue so bright it hurt to look at. Then the sand began to move. Not windswept. Not settling. Moving. Pulling away from a central point 300 meters from their dig site, spiraling outward like water circling a drain. Except this drain was revealing something that had been buried for thousands of years. Black stone. Impossibly smooth. Rising. "My God," Daniel breathed. The pyramid emerged from the desert floor as if the earth itself was rejecting it. Four perfectly angled sides of obsidian-like material that drank the sunlight, each face covered in hieroglyphs that glowed with the same unnatural luminescence as the storm above. At its apex, a symbol Daniel recognized from exactly one source, the Book of the Dead's most forbidden chapter, the one that spoke of the devourer of souls. The storm center aligned directly above the pyramid's peak. Lightning struck, once, twice, 7 times in rapid succession. Each impact sent shockwaves through the sand that Daniel felt in his bones. The hieroglyphs blazed brighter with each strike until the entire structure pulsed with captured energy. Then the 8th lightning bolt descended, and reality tore. The air split like fabric, revealing something beyond that Daniel's mind struggled to process. Not space. Not another planet. Another place entirely, where the laws of physics bent differently and colors existed that human eyes weren't designed to see. Through that impossible rift, 7 figures tumbled, falling, silhouetted against a burning sky that definitely wasn't Earth's. They hit the sand hard. The dimensional tier sealed behind them with a thunderclap that knocked Daniel to his knees. When his ears stopped ringing and his vision cleared, Daniel found himself staring at 7 beings that shattered every assumption he'd made about alien life. They weren't the parasitic snakes of the Goa'uld or the gray-skinned Asgard. They were humanoid, certainly, but covered in fur, feline faces with distinctly human expressions of confusion and pain. The largest, a male with a mane of red-orange fur, pushed himself up from the sand, and Daniel saw the massive sword strapped to his back, its hilt embedded with a red gemstone that pulsed with its own internal light. "Where?" the being groaned, shaking his head. His voice was deep, commanding, but carried an edge of disorientation. "Where is Third Earth?" A female with cheetah-like spots moved with liquid grace despite obvious pain, helping 2 smaller felines to their feet. "Lion-O, the dimensional storm, it took us somewhere else." "I can see that, Chi-Terra," another male responded, this one blue-furred and heavily muscled, already scanning their surroundings with tactical precision. "The question is, where, and how do we get back?" Daniel's hand moved slowly to his radio. "Marcus, call it in. Now. Tell them we need an SG team and medical. Tell them," he paused, watching as the red-maned leader, Lion-O, apparently, drew his sword with one fluid motion, the blade singing as it cleared its sheath. "Tell them we have first contact, and it's not Goa'uld. The sword's gemstone exploded with light. The eye, Daniel would later learn to call it, projected a beam that swept across the desert, across his team, across the pyramid. When it touched Daniel, he felt the sensation of being seen, not just physically, but deeper. Analyzed. Measured. Ancient technology, Lion-O said, his eyes widening as he stared at Daniel's radio, his watch, the excavation equipment. But not like anything Mumm-Ra ever. He spun toward the Black Pyramid, and the sword's light intensified. No. No, it can't be. Lion-O. The spotted female, Chitara, moved to his side. What do you sense? The pyramid. It's his. It's his, Chitara. Somehow, impossibly, we found Mumm-Ra's Black Pyramid. But it's different. Older. Like this is where it all began. Daniel's archaeological instincts overrode his caution. You know this structure. You've seen it before. 7 pairs of feline eyes turned to him. The blue-furred male's hand moved to what looked like nunchaku at his belt. A younger male with tiger stripes seemed to fade slightly, as if blending with the air itself. The smaller 2, children, Daniel realized, clutched spherical objects that gleamed with hidden mechanisms. You speak our language, Lion-O said, suspicion and hope warring in his voice. How? I speak English, Daniel replied carefully, hands visible and empty. I'm guessing whatever brought you here is translating. It's happened before. With others. From other places. He took a breath, making a decision that Jack would probably yell at him for later. My name is Daniel Jackson. I'm an archaeologist from Earth, this Earth, I mean. And I think I can help you understand where you are. But first, I need you to trust me. My people will be here soon. They're soldiers, but they're good people. They've helped others who've been displaced. The sword's light dimmed slightly. Lion-O studied Daniel with eyes that held far more wisdom than his young face suggested. Code of Thundera, he said finally, sheathing the blade. We help those in need, even when we ourselves need help. He straightened, and despite the sand coating his fur and the obvious exhaustion, there was nobility in the gesture. I am Lion-O, Lord of the ThunderCats. These are my companions and warriors, Chitara, Panthro, Tigra, Wily-Kit, Wily-Cat, and Snarf. We serve the code, we protect the innocent, and we fight against evil in all its forms. Snarf, Snarf, the small creature at Lion-O's feet added nervously. But preferably while finding a way home, Snarf. Daniel couldn't help but smile, even as he heard the distinctive sound of helicopters approaching from the north. Then we have something in common. Fighting evil, I mean. Where I'm from, we call them the Goa'uld. But your pyramid worries me. If your enemy built it, and it's been here for thousands of years. He looked at the obsidian structure, at the hieroglyphs that still glowed with captured storm energy. We need to find out why. The Sword of Omens pulsed once more, its red eye seeming to agree. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. Indeed. 3 hours later, Daniel stood in the SGC briefing room with General Hammond, Jack O'Neill, Sam Carter, and TLC, watching through the observation window as the ThunderCats sat in holding room 3, their weapons secured but their dignity intact. So let me get this straight, Jack said, leaning back in his chair. Cat people. From another dimension. Chasing an ancient evil wizard. Who apparently built a pyramid in our backyard that we never detected. The pyramid's composition is unlike anything I've seen, Carter said, studying her tablet. It's not Nequata-based, but it's definitely not terrestrial. And the energy readings Daniel described match the profile of a dimensional bridge, but the power requirements would be impossible without a ZPM, Daniel finished. I know. But the hieroglyphs on the pyramid tell a story. It talks about the Ever-Living, an entity that predates the Goa'uld dynasties. Something that learned the secrets of immortality before RA even took his first host. TLC's expression darkened. I have heard whispers. Ancient Jaffa legends speak of the first one, the being who discovered the sarcophagus before the Goa'uld claimed it as their own. We believed it to be myth. Their leader, Lion-O, Daniel continued, pulling up his notes. His sword detected ancient technology in the mountain. In our gate. That's not coincidence. Hammond folded his hands on the table. Dr. Jackson, are you suggesting these ThunderCats and their enemy are connected to the ancients? I'm suggesting we need to find out. Because if Mumm-Ra, that's their enemy's name, if he's been on Earth for millennia and we never knew, what else is he hiding? Through the window, Lion-O stood and moved to the one-way mirror. His hand touched the glass, and the Sword of Omens at his side pulsed with light. He couldn't see them, Daniel knew, but somehow, the young lord was looking directly at him. Thunder, 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 Lion-O whispered, and even through the reinforced glass, Daniel heard the conviction. ThunderCats, ho! The sword's eye flared, and every ancient-based system in Cheyenne Mountain activated at once. The alarm started in the gate room. Then the control systems. Then every piece of ancient-derived technology in Cheyenne Mountain lit up like Christmas morning, and Sam Carter's laptop started displaying symbols she'd only seen in ancient databases recovered from decades-old missions. Shut it down. Hammond barked into the comm, all non-essential systems offline, now. But the Sword of Omens wasn't asking permission. Its red eye blazed through the holding room wall, impossible, yet undeniable, and painted everything in crimson light. Daniel watched as the beam swept through the briefing room, through the mountain itself, mapping and analyzing with an intelligence that felt alive. It's not hostile, Daniel said quickly, stepping toward the window. Look at the pattern. It's searching, not attacking. Jack had his sidearm halfway out. Searching for what, Daniel? The answer came from holding room 3's intercom as Lion-O's voice carried through, awed and confused in equal measure. Panthro, are you seeing this? The swords never reacted like this before. Not even in the Book of Omens chamber. I see it, Lion-O. The blue-furred engineer's voice held professional fascination. Whatever technology built this facility, it's responding to the Eye of Thunder like they're designed to communicate. Like they're related. Carter was already moving, her scientific curiosity overriding protocol. General, request permission to interview them. If their artifact is interfacing with ancient technology, we need to understand how and why. Denied, Major. Until we know what we're dealing with. The sword's light vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. Every system in the mountain returned to normal. But Daniel saw Lion-O through the observation window, staring at his sword with an expression of profound uncertainty. The young lord looked up, directly at the mirror again, and spoke clearly. I know you're watching. I know you're afraid. But the Eye of Thunder doesn't lie. Whatever you're protecting here, whatever ancient power you guard, it recognizes the Sword of Omens. Which means somewhere, sometime, our peoples met before. He paused, choosing his words carefully. The Code of Thunder demands honesty. So I'll be honest, we need your help to get home. But that pyramid in your desert radiates the same evil energy as Mumm-Ra's fortress. If he's here, in your world, you need our help too. Whether you know it yet or not. TLC inclined his head slightly. He speaks with honor, General Hammond. His words carry the weight of one who has led warriors in battle. He's also packing a sword that just hacked our entire system without touching a keyboard, Jack countered. Honor's great, but I'm more concerned about the glowing eye of doom on his back. Hammond studied the ThunderCats through the window. The smaller two, the kits, were examining the holding room with innocent curiosity, pointing out details to the nervous-looking creature called Snarf. The spotted female sat in meditation, her staff across her knees. The tiger-striped male traced patterns on the wall, his form flickering in and out of visibility. The engineer methodically tested every surface, likely cataloging structural data. And their leader stood at attention, waiting for judgment with the patience of someone who understood military hierarchy. "Dr. Jackson," Hammond said finally. "You made first contact. You escorted them here peacefully. What's your assessment?" Daniel removed his glasses, cleaning them as he thought. "In my experience, General, the truly dangerous ones don't usually announce themselves by declaring codes of honor and asking for help. The Goa'uld take what they want. These people, they're refugees. Displaced. Scared, even if they won't show it. But that sword," he replaced his glasses. "Sir, what if the ancients visited their world? What if the Eye of Thundera is ancient technology, and we're only now discovering a connection that's existed for millions of years?" "That would explain the dimensional storm," Carter added, her mind clearly racing. "If their artifact created a resonance with the pyramid's ancient derived systems, it could have punched through dimensional barriers. The energy required would be astronomical, but with the right harmonic frequency." "English, Carter," Jack interrupted. "Their magic sword and the evil pyramid might be two pieces of the same ancient science experiment, sir. And they found each other across dimensions." The room fell silent. Through the window, Cheetara's eyes snapped open. She stood gracefully, moving to Lion-O's side and whispering something urgent. The young lord's expression shifted from patient to alarmed. "General," Daniel said quietly. "Cheetara, the spotted female, according to Lion-O, she has precognitive abilities. Sees the future, or at least possibilities. And she just saw something." Hammond pressed the intercom. "This is General Hammond, commander of this facility. I'm coming down to speak with you directly. You will remain calm and seated. My guards will remain posted. But Dr. Jackson's vouched for you, and in this facility, that carries weight. Understood?" Lion-O placed his fist over his chest in a salute that could have come from any military tradition. "Understood, General. The ThunderCats will honor your hospitality." 5 minutes later, Daniel walked into holding room 3 alongside Hammond, with SG-1 flanking them and 4 SF guards at the door. Up close, the ThunderCats were even more impressive, and more alien. Their fur held patterns and colors Earth cats never displayed, and their eyes reflected light with a predator's gleam. But their body language was readable, cautious, curious, and committed to keeping the younger two protected. "General Hammond," Daniel said formally. "May I present Lion-O, Lord of the ThunderCats?" Lion-O stood, his companions rising with him in choreographed discipline. "Military training," Daniel noted. "Not just warriors, soldiers. General Hammond. Daniel has told us you lead what he calls Earth's defense against false gods who enslave humanity across the stars." The young lord's eyes found TLC, taking in the gold Jaffa symbol on his forehead. "And that you count among your allies those who were once enslaved themselves." "Indeed," TLC said, the word carrying approval. "You have studied our situation quickly. Cheetara has a gift," Lion-O explained. "She sees threads of possibility." When Daniel spoke, she saw his sincerity. His truth. He gestured to the spotted ThunderCat, who stepped forward with fluid grace. "General Hammond," Cheetara said, her voice carrying a melodic quality that still held authority. "I must warn you. My sight has shown me a dark thread forming. The pyramid in the desert, it's waking. Our arrival, the sword's activation, it's triggered something. Mumm-Ra's prison is opening, and when it does, he will seek the Sword of Omens to complete what he started millennia ago." "And what exactly did he start?" Jack asked, his casual tone not fooling anyone. Panthro answered, his gravelly voice carrying technical precision. "On our world, Mumm-Ra was the Ever-Living. An ancient evil sealed in his pyramid, powered by dark spirits that granted him immortality and transformation abilities. He served something called the ancient spirits of evil, beings of pure malevolence that existed before our recorded history. Carter's expression sharpened. Transformation. Like shape-shifting? No, Tigra said, his form solidifying fully. Like power amplification. In his tomb, Mumm-Ra is withered, weak. But when he calls upon the ancient spirits, he becomes something else. Stronger, larger, nearly invincible. Daniel felt pieces clicking together in his mind. A sarcophagus. He uses a sarcophagus for the transformation. That's why he's withered, sarcophagus addiction. The Goa'uld use them too, and the side effects include megalomania, dependency, and physical degradation without regular use. But the Goa'uld didn't invent the sarcophagus, Hammond said slowly. They found the technology. Copied it from whoever had it first, Daniel finished. From Mumm-Ra. Or from whoever created him. Lion-O's hand moved to the Sword of Omens. Jaga, our mentor, our guide, he told us that the sword was forged by the ancients of Thundra. That the eye was a gift from the stars themselves, meant to guide and protect. But if your ancients also exist here, if they're the same, he drew the blade, and this time, no alarm sounded. The sword simply hummed, its eye glowing softly. Then maybe Mumm-Ra isn't from our world either. Maybe he followed the sword. Maybe he's been hunting it across dimensions. Thunder, Wily Kit whispered, and her brother Wily Cat nodded agreement. Snarf, snarf, this is worse than I thought, snarf, Snarf muttered. Jack looked at Hammond. Sir, permission to speak freely? Granted, Colonel. We have cat people from another dimension, an evil wizard who might be the original Goa'uld, and a magic sword that's apparently ancient tech. I think we're past standard first contact protocols. Hammond's expression remained neutral, but Daniel caught the slight twitch of his mouth. Agreed, Colonel. Dr. Jackson, Major Carter, you'll work with Panthro and Tigra to analyze the pyramid. Colonel O'Neill, you and TLC will coordinate security and establish combat capabilities. I want to know what we're dealing with before that pyramid wakes up. He turned to Lion-O. Lord Lion-O, your people will be given guest quarters and limited facility access. Your weapons will be returned as a gesture of trust. But understand, if you make a move against this facility or my people, that trust ends. The code of Thundra will not be broken, General, Lion-O said firmly. You have my word. Then welcome to Stargate Command, Hammond said. Let's figure out what the hell that pyramid is hiding. As they filed out, Daniel caught Cheetah's eye. You saw something else in your vision. Something you didn't share. The ThunderCats' expression was troubled. I saw threads converging, Daniel Jackson. Your SG-1, our ThunderCats, and something, golden. False divinity claiming godhood. When Mumm-Ra wakes, he won't wake alone. Daniel's blood ran cold. Apophis. I don't know that name. But I saw serpents. Many serpents. And they were coming for the eye. The guest quarters assigned to the ThunderCats were level 18, 2 floors above SG-1 standard briefing room and 3 floors below the gate itself. Sam Carter led the group through Cheyenne Mountain's corridors, noting how Panthro's eyes tracked every structural detail, how Tigra's gaze catalogued security measures, how Cheetah moved with the fluid awareness of someone constantly scanning for threats. Military discipline, adapted to their unique abilities. These are temporary accommodations, Carter explained, keying open the door. Bunks, bathroom facilities, a common area. Not exactly luxury, but... We've slept in worse, Snarf said, already inspecting the beds. Remember the caverns of cold? At least this place has heating, Snarf. Wily Kit and Wily Cat immediately began exploring with the boundless energy of youth, opening cabinets and testing light switches with delighted fascination. Panthro, look! The lights respond to this switch without any visible power crystals. Electricity, Panthro said, his technical mind clearly engaged. Conducted through hidden wiring in the walls. Efficient, if primitive compared to Thunderian power cells. He turned to Carter with respect. Your people have built something impressive here, Major Carter. This mountain, it's been reinforced with materials I don't recognize. Designed to withstand massive force. Nequata-reinforced concrete, Carter said, surprised at his immediate analysis. You have an engineering background? I built the Thunder tank from salvaged parts on a dead world, Panthro replied with quiet pride. Designed our defensive systems on Third Earth. If you've got a wrench and a problem, I can probably solve it. Carter's smile was genuine. Then we're going to get along just fine. Lion-O set the Sword of Omens carefully on the table, its eye dimming to a soft glow. Major Carter, I need to understand something. Daniel mentioned your Stargate travels to other worlds. The eye showed me, gates. Circular, made of the same material as your mountain's reinforcements. They connect to thousands of places. Thousands of planets, Carter confirmed. The Stargate is ancient technology, built by a race that existed millions of years ago. They seeded the galaxy with human life and created a network that allows near-instantaneous travel across vast distances. Tigra's form flickered slightly, his analytical mind processing. A transportation network spanning a galaxy. The strategic implications are staggering. But also the danger, any enemy could use these gates to strike anywhere. Which is why we have an iris, Carter said. A defensive shield that prevents unauthorized incoming travelers. But you're right, the Goa'uld use the gate network too. They've been enslaving humans on thousands of worlds for millennia, posing as gods from Earth's ancient mythologies. False gods, Chitara said softly. We know something of those. Mumm-Ra claimed dominion over Third Earth by pretending divinity. But he was just a being who'd learned to extend his life through dark science. That's exactly what the Goa'uld are, Carter confirmed. Parasitic organisms that take human hosts and use advanced technology to maintain the illusion of godhood. They're not divine, they're just older and more ruthless. Lion-O stood, moving to the window that overlooked the mountain's interior levels. On Thundra, our original world, we were taught that the Eye of Thundra was forged by the ancients. We assumed they meant our ancients. But the sword's reaction to your technology suggests otherwise. He turned back to Carter. What if your ancients visited Thundra? What if they left the sword as a tool for future generations? Before Carter could respond, her radio crackled. Carter, Hammond. Report to the briefing room immediately. We have a situation at the pyramid site. On my way, sir. She looked at the ThunderCats. Stay here. I'll send someone to. No, Lion-O said firmly. If this involves the pyramid, it involves Mumm-Ra. The ThunderCats don't hide when evil threatens. His hand moved to the sword. Code of Thundra, Major Carter. We fight. Carter hesitated, then nodded. Follow me. But stay behind security, and for God's sake, don't touch anything without asking. They arrived at the briefing room to find Daniel projecting satellite images on the main screen. The Black Pyramid dominated the display, but now tendrils of dark energy coiled around its surface, pulsing with malevolent rhythm. It started 20 minutes ago, Daniel explained without preamble. The hieroglyphs are active. Actually glowing with that same purple-silver light from the storm. And we're detecting energy signatures that match the readings from when the dimensional rift opened. Jack stood with arms crossed, studying the images with tactical precision. So it's doing what, exactly? Making a phone call home? More like broadcasting a beacon, Daniel said. Sam, look at this frequency analysis. Carter moved to the computer, her expression shifting from curious to alarmed as she read the data. "Sir, this is Goa'uld hyperspace communication band. Someone's using that pyramid to send a signal across the galaxy." "To whom?" Hammond demanded. Chitara stepped forward, her eyes distant within her sight. "To those who would worship him. To those who crave power. The pyramid is calling to false gods, offering them the secret to," her eyes snapped open, pupils dilated. "Power beyond hosts. Power beyond symbiotes. Mumm-Ra is offering them transformation." TLC's expression became grim. "If a Goa'uld system lord learned to transform as you describe Mumm-Ra's ability, to amplify their power without limitation, they would become unstoppable. The balance of power among the system lords would shatter. And the one who arrived first would claim the prize," Daniel added. "We need to shut that pyramid down. Now." "We've tried," Hammond said. "Conventional explosives won't penetrate the surface. The material is impervious to C4, and the energy field deflects projectiles." Panthro studied the satellite images with professional interest. "That's ancient spirit's energy. On our world, the only thing that could penetrate Mumm-Ra's pyramid was the Sword of Omens," Lion-O finished. He drew the blade, and its eye flared in response to the images on the screen. The sword was forged to fight evil. If the pyramid responds to ancient technology, then the sword should be able to counter it. Or feed it, Tigra warned. "Lion-O, we don't know what happens if the eye makes direct contact with that structure. It could amplify the signal. It could open the dimensional rift wider. Or it could give us the off switch we need," Jack said. "Look, I'm not usually the guy who votes for the magic sword plan, but Carter's explosives failed, Daniel's hieroglyphs aren't exactly coming with an instruction manual, and we've got an evil pyramid calling every snakehead in the galaxy. I'm open to suggestions." Lion-O looked at his team. "ThunderCats?" "I can analyze the pyramid structure from close range," Panthro said. "Find weak points. If there's a technological solution, I'll find it." "My sight shows multiple paths," Chitara said carefully. "But the ones where Lion-O uses the sword have the highest probability of success. And the highest risk. I can provide reconnaissance," Tigra offered. "My invisibility will let me scout the interior if we find an entrance. And we can create diversions." WilyKit said enthusiastically, WilyCat nodding agreement. "Our capsules have." "You two are staying here," Lion-O said firmly. "This isn't a training exercise." "But Lion-O." "Code of Thundera," he said gently but without room for argument. "Protect the young. That includes you. You'll remain with Snarf where it's safe." Hammond leaned forward. "Lord Lion-O, I appreciate your willingness to help. But I can't authorize sending foreign nationals, even interdimensional ones, into an active hostile situation on Earth soil without proper mission briefing, equipment checks, and..." The alarm klaxons cut through his words. Red lights flooded the briefing room as a technician's voice echoed through the speakers, "Unscheduled off-world activation. Repeat, unscheduled off-world activation. Multiple incoming wormholes detected in local stellar region." Carter was already moving. "Multiple? That's not possible. The gate can only maintain one connection at a time." "Not the SGC gate, Major," the technician responded. "We're detecting gate activations on Earth's surface. 4 separate locations, all within 50 miles of the pyramid coordinates. Something's dialing in from off-world, and they're using gates we didn't know existed." Daniel's face went pale. "Buried gates. There are stargates buried across Earth that we never found. Ra must have placed them during his occupation of ancient Egypt. And someone just activated 4 of them simultaneously," Jack said, already heading for the armory. "Hammond, permission to gear up SG-1 and get to that pyramid before whatever's coming through arrives." "Granted." Dr. Jackson, you're with them. Major Carter, coordinate with. With us, Lion-O said, the Sword of Omens blazing in his grip. General Hammond, you said you couldn't authorize sending us into hostile situations. But we didn't ask permission. The code of Thundra is clear: when evil threatens, ThunderCats fight. Whether that evil comes from our dimension or yours. Panthro cracked his knuckles, his nunchaku appearing in his hands with practiced ease. Tigra's Billo whip uncoiled as his form shimmered. Chitara lifted her staff, her expression serene but deadly. Hammond looked at the assembled warriors, human and Thundercat alike, and made a command decision. Colonel O'Neill, you have tactical command. Lord Lion-O, your team is attached to SG-1 as specialized consultants. Rules of engagement are simple. Protect that pyramid until we understand what it is, and stop whatever's coming through those gates from claiming it. He paused. And try not to start an intergalactic incident. No promises on that last part, sir, Jack said, chambering around in his P-90. Daniel, grab your archaeology kit. Carter, bring the big guns. TLC, staff weapon and Zat. And somebody get our cat friend some radios. As they moved out, Lion-O fell into step beside Jack. Colonel O'Neill, I should warn you. We've fought Mumm-Ra before. He's cunning, ancient, and has survived everything we've thrown at him. If he's truly waking, you need to understand what you're facing. Jack glanced at the young lord, noting the weight in his eyes that came from hard-won experience. Kid, I've faced parasitic snakes who think they're gods, bug robots that eat planets, and ascended beings with a messiah complex. Your mummy guy's just another name on the list. He smiled grimly. But I appreciate the heads up. Now let's go see who answered his dinner invitation. The Sword of Omens pulsed 3 times, a warning rhythm that Chitara recognized immediately. Lion-O, the sword is reacting to something. Something powerful approaching. I feel it too, Lion-O said, watching the blade's eye swirl with captured light. Sight beyond sight. The eye projected forward, piercing through the mountain's walls, through miles of earth and sand, to the pyramid where 4 newly activated Stargates were disgorging troops in golden armor. Jaffa. Hundreds of them. And at their center, a figure in ornate robes whose eyes glowed with the unmistakable light of a Goa'uld. Apophis, TLC said quietly, recognizing the formation patterns even through Lion-O's projected vision. He has brought his first prime and elite guard. He means to claim the pyramid by force. Then we'd better move fast, Jack said, breaking into a jog. Because I really don't want to explain to the president why an alien warlord conquered Egypt while we had magic cat people standing around talking about it. Behind them, Daniel paused to look back at Wily Kit, Wily Cat, and Snarf. Stay here. Stay safe. And if anything goes wrong, we run to the gate room and let the soldiers protect us, Snarf finished. We know the drill, Snarf. Just bring our friends back. The young ThunderCats nodded solemnly, understanding the weight of being left behind while others fought. As SG-1 and the ThunderCats headed for the surface, none of them saw the Black Pyramid central chamber where ancient sarcophagus mechanisms began their reanimation cycle, and a withered figure wrapped in decaying bandages drew its first breath in millennia. Mumm-Ra the Ever-Living was stirring. And he was hungry. The Sahara night turned the desert into an alien landscape of shadow and starlight. 3 black hawks thundered over the dunes, rotors whipping sand into stinging clouds as SG-1 and the ThunderCats approached the pyramid site. Lion-O pressed against the helicopter's window, watching 4 distinct columns of light pierce the darkness, the active Stargates that Apophis had somehow accessed. How did he know? Daniel shouted over the rotor noise. We only discovered the pyramid this morning. How did Apophis know to dig up buried gates and activate them simultaneously? He didn't need to know, TLC responded, checking his staff weapon with methodical precision. Apophis has spies throughout the galaxy. If the pyramid broadcast on Goa'uld frequencies as Major Carter detected, every system lord with long-range sensors received the message. Apophis simply acted first. Cheetara's eyes were closed, her staff across her lap, but her voice carried clearly. I see the threads converging. Jaffa forces establish perimeter. They expect resistance from Earth's military but not, her eyes snapped open. Not from us. We're the variable Apophis didn't account for. Good, Jack said, securing his tactical vest. I like being the surprise party guest. He keyed his radio. All teams, listen up. We've got approximately 300 Jaffa between us and that pyramid, led by a Goa'uld with delusions of godhood and access to way too many spaceships. Our objective is simple, secure the pyramid, prevent Apophis from accessing whatever's inside, and try not to die. Questions? What's the tactical approach? Panthro asked, his analytical mind already processing battlefield variables. Direct assault, infiltration, or defensive containment? Yes, Jack replied. Carter, you and Panthro set up a defensive position with the Modus 50 Cal at grid reference Alpha 3. TLC, you're with me and Lion-O for the frontal approach. Daniel, Tigra, you two find a way inside that pyramid. Cheetara, you're with Daniel as protection and early warning system. We need to know what Apophis is after before he gets it. The helicopters descended in a storm of sand and engine roar, landing 2 clicks from the pyramid's position. The moment boots hit ground, Lion-O felt it, the pull of the sword toward the obsidian structure, like magnetic attraction between ancient technologies designed to interact. Lion-O. Tigra gripped his shoulder. You alright? The sword wants to go home, Lion-O said quietly, drawing the blade. Its eye blazed, illuminating the desert with crimson light. Whatever's in that pyramid, the Eye of Thunder recognizes it. Not as evil, as family. That's either really good or really bad, Jack muttered. Daniel, thoughts? Daniel adjusted his tactical glasses, military grade with heads-up display courtesy of Carter's engineering, and studied the pyramid through binoculars. The hieroglyphs are changing. They were warnings before. Now they're invitations. Come, children of stars. Come, inheritors of power. The ever-living awaits those worthy of transformation. Mumm-Ra's awake, Panthro said grimly, assembling a massive rifle from his pack with mechanical efficiency that made Carter's eyebrows rise. That's his standard recruitment speech. He offers power to those who'll serve him. And Apophis is exactly arrogant enough to believe he can control whatever's in there, TLC said. I know my former master. He sees opportunity, not trap. A staff weapon blast split the night, warning shot, arcing high over their position. Jaffa voices carried across the sand in perfect unison, Cree. Surrender or be destroyed. Lord Apophis claims this domain by right of the gods. Yeah, that's not happening, Jack said. He raised his voice, projecting with the authority of a veteran combat officer. This is United States Air Force. You're in violation of about 60 international laws. Power down your weapons and prepare to be detained. The response was a barrage of staff weapon fire that lit the desert like deadly fireworks. SG-1, weapons free. Jack dove behind a dune, his P-90 spitting return fire in controlled bursts. TLC's staff weapon answered with precision shots that dropped Jaffa from their forward positions. Carter and Panthro opened up with the .50 caliber, its heavy rounds punching through Jaffa armor with devastating effect. Lion-O charged. Not recklessly. With the tactical awareness of someone who'd led warriors through impossible odds. The Sword of Omens became a whirlwind of steel and light, deflecting staff blasts with the blades flat while the eye projected targeting information directly into his mind. Jaffa fell before him, not killed but disarmed, disabled, their weapons shattered by precise strikes. He's fast, Jack said, watching Lion-O move through enemy lines like liquid mercury. Like TLC on a really good day. ThunderCats are superior physical specimens, TLC observed, firing methodically. Enhanced strength, speed, reflexes. But observe his technique, he fights to disable, not kill. He shows mercy even against those who would destroy him. Code of Thundera, Daniel said, watching through his binoculars. They're warriors, but they're not killers. Not if they can avoid it. Chitara blurred into motion, and suddenly she was beside Lion-O, her staff spinning in defensive patterns that created a protective sphere. Staff blasts that should have hit Lion-O's exposed back intercepted harmlessly against her weapon. Together, they moved like they'd fought side by side for years, which, Daniel realized, they probably had. Daniel, Tigra, Jack called over the radio. Use the distraction. Get to that pyramid. Tigra's form shimmered and vanished. Daniel watched the tiger-striped Thundercat literally fade from view, not perfect invisibility, but enough that in the chaos of battle, tracking him was nearly impossible. How? Ancient genetic engineering on Thundera, Tigra's disembodied voice explained. My ancestors were given abilities to serve specific roles. Mine is infiltration. A pause. Coming. Daniel checked his Beretta, grabbed his pack, and followed the shimmer in the air that marked Tigra's position. They moved along the perimeter, skirting the main battle where Lion-O and Chitara had drawn the bulk of Jaffa attention. Apophis's forces were regrouping, forming the classic Serpent Guard phalanx that made them so effective in open combat. And then Daniel saw Apophis himself. The System Lord stood atop a dune, his ornate armor gleaming in the staff weapon fire, his eyes glowing with the symbiote's light. He watched the battle with the detached interest of someone playing a strategy game, not risking actual soldiers. When he spoke, his voice carried the Goa'uld's characteristic reverb. The sound of a parasite speaking through human vocal cords. Jaffa. Kree Hole. These warriors fight with honor, but they defend what they do not understand. Bring me the one with the glowing sword. I would speak with him. That's not good, Daniel muttered. He keyed his radio. Jack, Apophis wants Lion-O specifically. He's seen the sword. Of course he has, Jack responded, punctuated by gunfire. It's glowing like a rave party. Can we maybe turn that off? Lion-O's voice came through the shared channel, slightly breathless from combat. The eye chooses when to shine, Colonel O'Neill. I don't control it, I channel it. And right now, it's showing me. He paused, and Daniel could imagine him using sight beyond sight. There's an entrance. North side of the pyramid, concealed by hieroglyphs that shift. Daniel, Tigra, look for the symbol of the setting sun wrapped in serpent coils. Press it 3 times. How do you know that? Daniel asked, even as he and Tigra moved toward the pyramid's north face. Because the eye just showed me a memory. Not mine, the sword's. It's been here before, Daniel. Millions of years ago. When your ancients first came to Earth. Daniel's archaeological brain nearly short-circuited. Lion-O, are you saying the ancients created Mumm-Ra? Or imprisoned him? The memory's fragmented. But yes, your ancients and mine are connected. The sword knows this place. They reached the pyramid's base. Up close, the obsidian surface pulsed with internal light, hieroglyphs flowing like liquid across its face. Tigra materialized beside Daniel, his invisibility dropping as he studied the symbols with tactical assessment. There, Tigra pointed. Setting sun, serpent coils. But Daniel, those aren't the only symbols. Look at the pattern. It's a lock, but also a warning. Those who enter, enter as supplicants. Those who demand, demand destruction. Supplicants, Daniel repeated. Apophis is demanding. But if we ask, we might get invited in, Tigra finished. He pressed the symbol 3 times, gently, with respect. The pyramid responded. A section of wall simply ceased to exist, not sliding open, not grinding aside, but transitioning from solid to empty space as if the matter had been temporarily convinced it shouldn't be there. Ancient technology at its most unsettling. Beyond lay darkness. And from that darkness, a voice, ancient, withered, carrying the weight of millennia. Come, inheritors. Come, bearers of the eye. The Ever-Living has waited so long for this reunion. Daniel and Tigra exchanged glances. Behind them, the battle raged. Ahead lay answers, and almost certainly danger. Code of Thundera? Daniel asked. Tigra's expression was grim but determined. We face our fears. We fight for others. And we never abandon those who need our help. He activated his radio. Lion-O, we're going in. If we're not back in 10 minutes. Then I'm coming after you, Lion-O responded immediately. Sword and I, brother. We don't leave family behind. They entered the pyramid. Outside, Apophis watched the battle with growing frustration. His Jaffa were falling, not dead, he noted with irritation, but disabled by these strange feline warriors who fought with honor he thought extinct in the galaxy. The one with the sword moved like the first ones must have moved, before the Goa'uld claimed dominance. And that sword. He'd felt its power from orbit. A weapon of the ancients, or something even older. Power enough to challenge the System Lord's monopoly on ancient technology. Power enough to make him Supreme System Lord if he claimed it. First Prime. Apophis commanded. Concentrate fire on the sword bearer. Bring him down. I want him alive. The Jaffa obeyed, but Lion-O was already moving, Chi-Tera at his back, cutting through the tightening net with warrior precision. And behind them, Carter's 50 cal and TLC's methodical staff weapon fire created zones of devastation that prevented the Jaffa from surrounding the ThunderCat position. Jack fought his way to Lion-O's side, reloading his P90 with practiced speed. Daniel's inside. He and your stripy friend are poking around in evil wizard territory. Then we hold this line, Lion-O said, his voice carrying command authority that made Jack reassess the young lord's age. No Jaffa reached that entrance. Whatever Daniel finds, he needs time to understand it. Holding lines is what we do best, Jack confirmed. TLC. Defensive Omega pattern. Indeed, O'Neill. The battle settled into brutal equilibrium, SG-1 and ThunderCats holding against numerical superiority through superior position and tactical coordination. Apophis could have overwhelmed them with sheer numbers, but he was System Lord enough to recognize a stalemate. And stalemates could be negotiated. Tauri warriors. Apophis called out, his voice amplified by Goa'uld technology. And you, strange feline fighters. I am Apophis, god of darkness, master of armies. You fight well, but you fight for nothing. The pyramid is mine by ancient right. Stand aside, and I shall be merciful. Counteroffer. Jack shouted back. You go home, we don't blow up your pyramid, and everybody lives to fight another day. Inside the pyramid, Daniel and Tigra heard none of this. They descended into darkness older than human civilization, guided only by glowing hieroglyphs and the certainty that somewhere below, Mumm-Ra the Ever-Living was waiting. And the sarcophagus at the heart of the Black Pyramid completed its cycle, its lid sliding open with the whisper of ancient mechanisms. Red eyes opened in the darkness. The interior of the Black Pyramid defied physics in ways that made Daniel's archaeological training rebel. The passages descended at impossible angles, not quite stairs, not quite ramps, but something that convinced the inner ear that down was a direction of choice rather than gravitational certainty. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent hieroglyphs that Daniel recognized from exactly nowhere in the established Egyptian canon. These aren't Egyptian, he muttered, running his fingers millimeters above the symbols without touching. They're older. Pre-dynastic. Maybe pre-human. Tigra's form flickered between visible and invisible as they moved, his instincts keeping him ready to vanish at the first sign of threat. On Third Earth, Mumm-Ra's pyramid had similar markings. Our scholars called them the script of the ancients, a language that predated even the ThunderCat civilization on original Thundra. The ancient language, Daniel breathed. Lion-O was right. Your ancients and ours, they're the same. This pyramid is a bridge between dimensions, built by a race that existed before the Goa'uld, before the System Lords, maybe even before humans walked upright. The passage opened into a chamber that stole Daniel's breath. Vast. Cathedral vast. The ceiling disappeared into darkness that seemed to absorb light rather than merely reflect none. But the walls were covered in a mural that told a story Daniel had never imagined. Ancient beings, humanoid but clearly not human, stood before a Stargate. Not Earth's gate. A different one, older, with symbols Daniel didn't recognize. These beings had the bearing of the ancients from the database downloads, but their technology was different. More organic. More alive. They're creating something, Tigra said, studying the mural with tactical assessment. See there? They're placing something small into a larger mechanism. Daniel followed Tigra's pointing finger. The small object glowed red in the mural, stylized but unmistakable. The Eye of Thundra. They're installing it into, oh my god. It's not a power source. It's a key. A genetic key designed to identify beings with specific DNA markers. The ancient gene, Tigra said, understanding dawning. On Thundra, only those of noble blood could wield the Sword of Omens. We thought it was mystical birthright. But it was genetics. Ancient genetics, passed down through our bloodlines. The mural continued. The ancient beings sealed something inside a sarcophagus, a figure that even in stylized form radiated malevolence. Around the sarcophagus, they placed guardians. Or perhaps prisoners. The images were ambiguous, showing beings that were part machine, part organic, their forms shifting between states. An experiment, Daniel said slowly. The ancients were experimenting with evolution. Forced evolution. They took something, someone, and tried to push them to ascension artificially. But it went wrong. The subject became corrupted. Powerful but twisted. Mumm-Ra, Tigra confirmed. He always claimed to be ancient beyond measure. We thought he was boasting. But if the ancients created him, then he's not just powerful. He's a prototype. A failed attempt at forced ascension that resulted in something that can't die because it was never fully alive in the way we understand. Daniel turned to the next section of mural. And they couldn't destroy him. So they imprisoned him. Split him across dimensions. His pyramid on Third Earth was one piece. This pyramid on Earth is another. And the sword was the key to keep him locked, Tigra finished. That's why he's always sought the Eye of Thundra. Not to destroy it, but to corrupt it. To turn the lock from the inside. A voice echoed through the chamber. Dry as desert wind, old as mountains, carrying harmonics that suggested multiple speakers in concert. Clever mammals. So very clever. But incomplete in your understanding. The chamber's center erupted with light. Not the clean white gold of ancient technology, but something darker, purple shot through with sickly green, pulsing with the rhythm of a diseased heart. The light coalesced into form, and Daniel found himself face to face with the ever-living. Mumm-Ra was withered. Skeletal. Wrapped in bandages that had decayed to tatters over millennia, revealing mummified flesh that should have been dead but moved with fluid precision. His eyes glowed red, not the gold of Goa'uld symbiotes, but crimson that suggested something older and far less comprehensible. He wore the remnants of ornate robes that might have been magnificent once but now hung like funeral shrouds. Dr. Daniel Jackson, Mumm-Ra said, and his voice carried knowledge that made Daniel's skin crawl. Archaeologist. Linguist. Ascended once and returned. You carry the memories of the ancients in your mind, I can smell them on your thoughts like perfume. Those red eyes shifted to Tigra. And you. ThunderCat. Descendant of those the ancients uplifted to serve as wardens. How poetic that you would come to the beginning place. Tigra's Goa'uld whip was in his hand, his form solidifying fully. You know us. I know everything that matters, Mumm-Ra replied. I am the ever-living. I was old when your ancestors learned to walk upright. I was ancient when the Goa'uld discovered the sarcophagus technology they stole from Mumm-Ra. I am the bridge between mortality and ascension, the proof that the ancients' non-interference was born not of wisdom but of fear. Fear of you, Daniel said, pieces clicking together. They tried to force ascension. They succeeded, partially. But you retained physical form while gaining ascended knowledge. You became something they couldn't control. Mumm-Ra's desiccated face twisted into what might have been a smile. I became what they secretly wished to be, powerful without sacrifice. Immortal without abandoning the flesh. They achieved their precious ascension by releasing their physical forms, abandoning the universe to lesser beings. I achieved power by refusing to let go. He raised withered arms, and the chamber's energy intensified. For millions of years, they kept me divided. Scattered across dimensions. This pyramid held my essence. The pyramid on Third Earth held my consciousness. And the sword, the beautiful, perfect sword, held the key to reuniting them. The dimensional storm, Tigra said. When Lion-O and the sword came through. The lock opened, Mumm-Ra confirmed. After so long. After so very, very long. The eye of Thundra touched this pyramid's resonance field, and the barriers weakened. Not broken, not yet. But weakened enough for me to wake. To call out to those who might serve me. To offer them what the ancients would deny all mortals, transformation without price. Daniel's mind raced. Apophis. You're offering him your knowledge. Your sarcophagus technology. The ability to transform into something more powerful than a Goa'uld system lord. The fool thinks he can control me, Mumm-Ra laughed, the sound like stones grinding. He will serve me, as all system lords will serve once I am whole again. But first. Those red eyes locked onto Tigra with predatory intensity. First, I require the sword. Bring Lion-O to me. Bring the eye of Thundra. Complete the circuit, and I will give you what your heart desires, the power to return home. The knowledge to save your people from whatever fate has befallen Third Earth in your absence. We don't bargain with evil, Tigra said flatly. Evil? Mumm-Ra's form shifted, growing larger, his withered frame expanding with dark energy. I am not evil, ThunderCat. I am evolution. I am the next step. The ancients achieved enlightenment through sacrifice. I achieve it through will. Which, I wonder, will prove more enduring. Above them, the pyramid shuddered. Daniel felt it through his boots, a massive impact against the structure's exterior. Apophis is getting impatient, Mumm-Ra observed. His Jaffa attempt to breach my walls with primitive explosives. They will fail, of course. These walls were designed to contain me, nothing the Goa'uld possess can penetrate them. But their presence serves my purpose. Every moment they fight, every second they waste, the dimensional lock weakens further. He turned his terrible gaze back to Daniel. You carry ancient knowledge. You know what I say is true. The ancients' great mistake was thinking ascension required purity. It doesn't. It requires only power. And I have power enough for any who would join me. Daniel's hand moved to his radio, but Mumm-Ra gestured and the device sparked, fried by a pulse of energy. Tigra's whip lashed out, but Mumm-Ra simply wasn't there anymore, his form had dematerialized and reformed 3 meters to the left. I don't wish to harm you, Mumm-Ra said almost gently. You're scholars. Seekers of truth. I respect that. But you stand between me and reunion. Between me and wholeness. And I have been incomplete for far, far too long. The chamber's walls began to shift. What Daniel had taken for solid obsidian revealed itself to be something else. A containment field, flickering with ancient technology signatures, and it was failing. Beyond it, he could see something. A space that wasn't quite space. A dimension that existed parallel to their own. Third Earth. He was looking at Third Earth through a dimensional window. My other half calls, Mumm-Ra said. Across the void between realities, I feel my consciousness yearning to return. All I need is the key. All I need is. The Sword of Omens light blazed through the pyramid's upper levels, cutting through stone and darkness like a targeting laser. Lion-O's voice echoed with the sword's power, sight beyond sight. Show me Daniel. Show me where evil hides. Mumm-Ra's expression twisted with hunger. Ah. The bearer approaches. How convenient. Tigra grabbed Daniel's arm. We have to warn him. If Mumm-Ra gets the sword. Then I become whole, Mumm-Ra finished. Then I become what the ancients feared. Then I show this galaxy what true power means. He raised his arms, and the chamber filled with his voice, amplified by ancient mechanisms. Come, Lion-O, Lord of ThunderCats. Come and face the ever-living. Come and learn what your precious sword was truly forged to do. Outside the pyramid, Lion-O felt the sword's pull intensify. The eye blazed so brightly that Jaffa had to shield their eyes. Chitara grabbed his shoulder, her precognition screaming warnings. Lion-O, wait. If you go in there. Daniel's in there, Lion-O said simply. The code is clear. Jack O'Neill appeared at his side, breathing hard from combat. Kid, I appreciate the heroics, but that thing just fried Daniel's radio and probably set a trap for you specifically. Walking in there is exactly what Mummy Guy wants. I know, Lion-O said. He looked at Jack, and the Colonel saw the weight of leadership in those young eyes. But it's also what Daniel needs. And on Thundera, we have a saying, the Sword of Omens always cuts true. If Mumm-Ra wants the eye, then the eye must have the power to stop him. I have to trust that. Thunder, Chitara whispered, tears in her eyes. Thunder, thunder, thunder. Lion-O smiled at her. ThunderCats, ho. He charged into the pyramid, the sword leading the way, its light cutting through millennia of darkness toward a confrontation that had been building since the ancients first made their terrible mistake. And above the pyramid, Apophis watched with calculating eyes, realizing that perhaps direct assault was the wrong approach. Perhaps he should let these fools weaken each other first. Lion-O descended through passages that seemed designed to disorient. Gravity shifting subtly, perspectives warping at the edges of vision. But the Sword of Omens cut through the ancient deception like a beacon through fog. The eye projected a golden path visible only to him, a trail of light that marked the safest route to Daniel and Tigra. Behind him, he heard footsteps. Multiple sets. Jack O'Neill had ignored his own advice about heroics and followed, with TLC and Chitara close behind. The practical part of Lion-O's mind appreciated the backup. The leadership part worried about exposing more people to whatever Mumm-Ra had planned. Colonel O'Neill, Lion-O said without slowing, you should maintain the perimeter. Apophis has pulled back his Jaffa to observation positions, Jack interrupted. Which tells me Snakehead's waiting to see what happens when you meet your mummy. Carter and Panthro are topside with heavy weapons in case he changes his mind. But I'm not letting you walk into ancient evil headquarters without backup. He checked his P90's magazine. Besides, Daniel's down here. And we have a rule, nobody gets left behind. Code of Thundera, Chitara said softly, running beside Lion-O with effortless grace. You understand it, Colonel. Even if you call it something else. Yeah, well, we're all sentimental idiots, Jack muttered. TLC, you getting weird energy readings? Indeed. TLC's staff weapon hummed at ready position. The pyramid's interior contains technology that predates the Goa'uld. I sense power here that even the system lords would fear. The passage opened into the vast chamber where Daniel and Tigra stood frozen, facing Mumm-Ra's withered form. Lion-O burst through, the sword blazing, and the Ever-Living's red eyes locked onto the blade with undisguised hunger. At last, Mumm-Ra breathed. The Eye of Thundera returns home. This isn't your home, Lion-O said, positioning himself between Mumm-Ra and his friends. Your home is a prison. This pyramid, the one on Third Earth, their containment facilities. The ancients built them to keep you divided because together, you're too dangerous to exist. Mumm-Ra's laugh echoed through the chamber. Dangerous. What an interesting word. The ancients thought fire was dangerous too, until they learned to control it. They thought genetic manipulation was dangerous, until they used it to seed the galaxy with human life. They thought ascension was dangerous, until they achieved it themselves. His form shifted, growing, the withered flesh filling out slightly with stolen energy. I am not dangerous, Lord of ThunderCats. I am inevitable. I am what happens when evolution refuses to stop at the ancients' arbitrary finish line. Jack raised his P90. Okay, philosophy time's over. Daniel, Tigra, get behind us. Mummy Man, you've got 3 seconds to power down before we introduce you to modern firearms. Firearms, Mumm-Ra said with amusement. Projectile weapons using chemical propellants. The Tauri still cling to such primitive. Jack opened fire. The P90s burst stitched across Mumm-Ra's chest, and for a moment, the ancient being staggered. Then the bullets simply fell away, their kinetic energy absorbed by the dark aura surrounding him. As I was saying, Mumm-Ra continued. Primitive. TLC's staff weapon discharged, plasma energy slamming into Mumm-Ra with force that should have vaporized organic matter. The Ever-Living absorbed it, his red eyes brightening. Better, Mumm-Ra acknowledged. Goa'uld technology at least has the virtue of using principles the ancients pioneered. But still insufficient. I have survived supernovas, ThunderCat weapons designed specifically to kill me, and the full wrath of the ancient spirits of evil when they realized I had betrayed them. Your weapons are distractions, Lion-O said, and swung the Sword of Omens. The blade cut through Mumm-Ra's energy field like it wasn't there. The Ever-Living barely dodged, his withered form blurring with impossible speed, but the sword's edge grazed his bandaged shoulder. Where it touched, ancient energy sparked, gold meeting corrupted purple in a reaction that made the air scream. Mumm-Ra's expression shifted from amused to wary. Ah. Yes. The sword remembers me. And I remember it. He raised his arms, and the chamber's walls began to pulse. But you wield it blindly, young lord. You channel the eye without understanding what it truly is. Allow me to educate you. The mural on the chamber wall blazed to life, not static images anymore, but moving holographic projections that surrounded them. Daniel watched in awe as ancient history unfolded in real-time recording. The ancients, Alterans, they called themselves, stood before a subject strapped to a device that looked disturbingly like a sarcophagus. The subject was humanoid but not quite human, his features sharp and almost reptilian. One of the Alterans spoke in the ancient language, and Daniel's downloaded knowledge translated automatically. Subject 7, the ancient said. Final attempt at forced ascension through biological enhancement and sarcophagus exposure. Previous subjects achieved partial enlightenment but lost corporeal cohesion. This subject has been genetically modified to retain physical form while accessing higher dimensional energies. The sarcophagus activated. The subject inside screamed, a sound that carried through millions of years and made everyone in the chamber flinch. His body convulsed, transforming. Growing. Power exploded from him in waves that shattered equipment and sent the Alterans scrambling. When the light faded, Mumm-Ra stood in the sarcophagus. Not withered. Not decayed. Powerful. His eyes blazed with red light, and his voice carried harmonics that suggested he existed partially in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "What have you done to me?" the newborn Mumm-Ra demanded. "I can see everything. Every dimension. Every possibility. Every thread of causality. I am more." "You are unstable," the lead ancient replied. "The process has succeeded beyond parameters. You have achieved a form of ascension, but without releasing your physical form. This was not the intended." "Intended?" Mumm-Ra's laugh was manic. "You made me a god, and now you fear what you've created?" "No. No, I will not be unmade. I will not be your failed experiment." The recording showed the battle that followed. Mumm-Ra wielding power that rivaled the ancients themselves, but crude. Unrefined. The Alterans countered with technology and coordinated strategy, eventually overwhelming him through sheer numbers and tactical superiority. They sealed him in the pyramid, but not before he swore vengeance in words that made ancient technology recoil. "And so they divided me," Mumm-Ra said, dismissing the hologram with a gesture. "Split my essence between dimensions. Locked me with a key forged from their most powerful ZPM equivalent technology, your Eye of Thundra. Scattered my consciousness across realities to prevent me from ever reunifying my power." His red eyes fixed on Lion-O, but the ancients made a mistake. They assumed I would weaken over time. Instead, I learned. I adapted. I discovered how to reach across dimensions, how to gather worshippers, how to build power even while imprisoned. And I waited. For millions of years. I waited for the key to come home. "The sword isn't yours," Lion-O said firmly. "It was forged to protect people. To fight evil. Not to free you." "It was forged to be a lock," Mumm-Ra corrected. "But all locks can be keys if you understand the mechanism. And I have had millions of years to understand." He gestured, and the chamber's central platform began to rise, revealing beneath it a sarcophagus unlike any Daniel had seen. This one pulsed with the same corrupted purple-green energy that surrounded Mumm-Ra, the ancients' greatest irony. They imprison me using the very technology that sustains me. This sarcophagus is connected to the one on Third Earth. Two halves of a dimensional anchor. All I need is enough power to fully activate it. All I need is the eye, Chitara finished, her precognition showing her the threads. "Lion-O, if the sword touches that sarcophagus, it will complete the circuit. Mumm-Ra will reunify. He'll become what he was in that recording, powerful enough to challenge the ancients themselves." Worse, Daniel added, his archaeological mind processing the implications. "He'll have had millions of years to refine that power. To learn. The ancients who imprisoned him are gone, ascended or dead. There's no one left who knows how to stop him." Mumm-Ra smiled, his withered face twisting grotesquely. "Finally. Someone who understands the stakes. Yes, Dr. Jackson. If I reunify, I become unstoppable. The Goa'uld will kneel. The Asgard will flee. Even your precious ascended ancients will fear me. Because I will be what they refuse to become, a god in truth, not just higher dimensional energy pretending at enlightenment." "Then we destroy the sarcophagus," Jack said pragmatically. "Carter, you reading this? We need C4, lots of it, and a demo plan that turns Mummy's coffin into scrap metal." Carter's voice crackled through the radio, interference making her words broken. "Sir. Panthro and I, analyzing, pyramid structure is resonating. If we destroy the sarcophagus while it's active, dimensional backlash could tear a hole, reality itself." "She's correct," Mumm-Ra said pleasantly. Destroy my prison now, and you'll create a dimensional rift that will consume this planet. Perhaps your solar system. The ancients designed it well. I'm sealed here, but the seal itself is a doomsday device. Remove it incorrectly, and, he made an explosive gesture with his withered hands. So we can't let you reunify, but we can't destroy your prison, Jack summarized. And you want the glowing sword. I'm sensing a problem with our options here. TLC stepped forward, his expression grim. Perhaps there is another way. Mumm-Ra, you claim to be beyond good and evil. Merely evolution. If this is true, then you understand strategic reality. You are powerful, but incomplete. We are less powerful, but we possess what you need. This suggests negotiation, Mumm-Ra said, intrigued. The Jaffa speaks wisdom. Yes. Perhaps we can reach an accommodation. I require the eye to reunify. You require that I not destroy your reality in the process. There are arrangements that could satisfy both parties. No, Lion-O said flatly. We don't bargain with you. The code of Thundera is absolute. Evil, no matter how it justifies itself, cannot be empowered. Evil, Mumm-Ra repeated thoughtfully. Lion-O, I have watched you through the dimensional barrier for years. I've seen you grow from cub to lord. I've watched you make decisions that cost lives in service of your code. I've seen you sacrifice your people's safety for abstract principles. His voice became almost gentle. You call me evil. But I offer transformation. Transcendence. Freedom from mortality's limitations. Your code chains you to weakness, pretending its nobility. I offer strength without apology. Strength without honor is tyranny, Lion-O replied. And tyranny is exactly what we fight against. Then we are at impasse, Mumm-Ra said. His form began to shimmer, pulling power from the sarcophagus. Which means I must take what you will not give. Ancient spirits of evil. Transform this decayed form to Mumm-Ra, the ever-living. The transformation was horrifying to witness. The withered mummy exploded with dark energy, his form expanding, filling out with stolen vitality. Muscles rippled beneath skin that went from desiccated to vital in seconds. His eyes blazed brighter. His voice deepened, carrying power that made the pyramid tremble. Mumm-Ra stood before them, no longer withered. A being of terrifying presence, radiating the corrupted might of forced ascension. Not fully restored, not yet, but far more dangerous than the decayed form he'd worn moments before. I am Mumm-Ra, he intoned, his voice shaking the chamber. And I will have what is mine. He moved with speed that defied his size, lunging for the Sword of Omens with hands that crackled with dimensional energy. Lion-O met him blade to claw, and where they collided, reality itself bent. The battle for the Eye of Thundera, and the fate of two dimensions, had begun. The clash between Lion-O and Mumm-Ra sent shockwaves through the pyramid that registered on seismographs 300 miles away. Ancient technology screamed in protest as two sources of Ultron-derived power collided with force that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space. Lion-O moved with ThunderCat speed, the Sword of Omens tracing arcs of golden light that left afterimages in the air. Each strike targeted vital points with precision learned through years of combat, but Mumm-Ra wasn't there anymore, his transformed body phased through attacks, existing partially out of sync with normal spacetime. You fight well, Mumm-Ra said, his voice resonating from multiple positions simultaneously. But you fight a being who has transcended conventional physics. The sword cannot cut what refuses to remain solid. Jack opened fire, his P-90 stitching patterns through Mumm-Ra's form. The bullets passed through empty air where the ever-living had been, then sparked off the sarcophagus behind him. Okay, that's just cheating. TLC, thoughts? He maintains partial phase shift, TLC analyzed, circling for position. But observe, when he attacks, he must solidify. He cannot harm what he cannot touch. Chitara saw the pattern through her precognition, threads of possibility converging. Lion-O. When he strikes, he's vulnerable. The sword can cut him in that instant. Mumm-Ra laughed, his form coalescing as he swung at Lion-O with claws that trailed dimensional distortion. Lion-O blocked with the sword's flat, and the impact rang like a bell struck in a cathedral. The blade held, ancient craftsmanship proving its worth, but the force drove Lion-O back 3 meters. Smart, Mumm-Ra acknowledged. But even if you wound me, I heal. The sarcophagus sustains me. As long as it remains active, I am effectively immortal in this chamber. Daniel's mind raced through ancient knowledge downloaded from the repository. The sarcophagus is the power source. It's drawing energy from somewhere else. Another dimension. Third Earth. If we could disrupt the connection. You'd need to access the control systems, Mumm-Ra interrupted, still trading blows with Lion-O, which are encoded with ancient gene security. Which none of you possess, since the Alterans didn't anticipate Tauri inheriting their legacy. He backhanded Lion-O, sending the young lord sprawling. You're out of options, archaeologist. Tigra materialized beside the sarcophagus, his invisibility dropping as he examined its surface. Panthro would understand this technology. It's mechanical. Ancient, yes, but still mechanical. And anything mechanical can be sabotaged. Don't touch it. Daniel shouted. If you disrupt it while it's active. Tigra's hand froze centimeters from the control surface. The dimensional rift. Right. So we can't destroy it, can't deactivate it, and can't let Mumm-Ra keep using it. He looked at Lion-O, who was pushing himself up, blood matting his fur. What's the play, Lion-O? The Sword of Omens pulsed in Lion-O's grip, and understanding flooded through their mental link. The eye, Lion-O said. The sword is telling me, it was designed as a lock, yes. But also as a regulator. The ancients didn't just use it to seal Mumm-Ra. They used it to control the dimensional bridge. To keep it stable. Which means if we remove it entirely, the bridge collapses catastrophically, Daniel said. But if we recalibrate it, we could reverse the energy flow. Carter's voice cut through the radio, stronger now that they were deeper in the pyramid where ancient communication systems amplified signals. Sir, Panthro and I have been analyzing the pyramid's energy signature. It's not just containing Mumm-Ra, it's a two-way conduit. Energy flows from Third Earth to here, sustaining him. But the mechanism could theoretically be reversed. Mumm-Ra's red eyes narrowed. You would attempt to sever my connection to my other half. Even if you succeeded, and you won't, it would only weaken me temporarily. I have waited millions of years. I can wait longer still. You're lying, Chitara said, her sixth sense cutting through his bravado. I see the truth in the threads. If we sever the connection, you can't reunify. Not ever. The dimensional barriers would stabilize in the severed configuration. You'd be trapped here, incomplete, forever. Mumm-Ra's composure cracked. His transformed face twisted with rage that had been building for millennia. You dare. You dare threaten me with eternal imprisonment again? I am Mumm-Ra the Ever-Living. I am the first ascended. I will not be denied. He lunged not at Lion-O, but at Tigra, recognizing the tiger-striped ThunderCat as the immediate threat to the sarcophagus. But TLC was already moving, his staff weapon's blade extended, intercepting Mumm-Ra's charge with Jaffa warrior precision honed over a century of combat. The staff blade pierced Mumm-Ra's shoulder where he'd solidified to attack. The Ever-Living screamed, not in pain, but in fury, and backhanded TLC with force that sent the Jaffa crashing into the chamber wall hard enough to crack stone. TLC. Jack fired again, aiming for Mumm-Ra's eyes. The bullets forced the ancient being to flinch, buying seconds. Lion-O used those seconds. He charged, the sword blazing, and this time he didn't aim for Mumm-Ra. He aimed for the sarcophagus itself. Sword of Omens, give me sight beyond sight. Show me how to seal what should never have been opened. The eye of Thundra exploded with light so brilliant everyone had to shield their eyes. The beam struck the sarcophagus, and ancient systems responded, not to Mumm-Ra's corrupted commands, but to the original programming encoded in the eye when the Alterans first forged it. The sarcophagus began to change. Its purple-green corruption fought against golden ancient energy in a battle of incompatible frequencies. The chamber shook. Hieroglyphs blazed. And the dimensional window to Third Earth, previously a stable viewing portal, began to destabilize. No. Mumm-Ra's transformation faltered, his powerful form beginning to wither again as the energy flow reversed. No. I was so close. After so long, I was finally going to be whole. But something else was happening. Through the destabilizing portal, shapes were moving. Daniel saw them, silhouettes against Third Earth's alien sky. Pyramids. Black pyramids identical to the one they stood in, rising across a landscape that looked nothing like Earth. There are more, Daniel breathed. This isn't a two-part prison. It's a network. Mumm-Ra's consciousness isn't split between two locations, it's fragmented across multiple dimensions. The ancients scattered him across the multiverse. Mumm-Ra collapsed to his knees, his withered form reasserting as the sarcophagus's power flow interrupted. Clever Alterans. Of course they wouldn't trust a simple binary prison. They divided me into pieces and locked each piece in a separate reality, each pyramid maintaining the others through dimensional resonance. His red eyes fixed on Lion-O with hatred that transcended time. And you've just collapsed one node of the network. Do you have any idea what you've done? The pyramid shuddered. Not from combat, from structural failure. Ancient technology began to fail in cascading sequence as the dimensional anchor lost coherence. Carter's voice screamed through the radio, "Sir, get out. The entire pyramid is destabilizing. Panthro and I are detecting dimensional fractures opening all around the structure. If you don't evacuate in the next 3 minutes, you'll be trapped in dimensional collapse. Everybody move." Jack ordered. Daniel, Tigra, help TLC. Lion-O, can you walk? I can run, Lion-O said, though blood dripped from wounds across his body. The sword is showing me the way out. They bolted for the exit passage, but Mumm-Ra's laughter followed them. Run, little mammals. Run back to your false safety. But understand this, you've sealed one prison node, yes. But in doing so, you've sent ripples through the dimensional network. The other nodes feel the destabilization. The other fragments of me feel their chains weakening. Lion-O paused despite the urgency. What are you saying? Mumm-Ra's eyes gleamed with terrible satisfaction even as his form decayed further. I'm saying the ancients designed redundancy into my prison. Each pyramid supports the others. Damage one, and the network compensates by drawing more power from the remaining nodes. But collapse one entirely. His laughter was broken glass. Then the remaining nodes must bear greater strain. Eventually, inevitably, another will fail. And another. And when enough fail, he smiled with withered lips. The prison network itself collapses. And I go free. All of me. Every fragment. Unified at last. He's bluffing, Jack said. Has to be. I don't think he is, Daniel replied, his downloaded ancient knowledge confirming the horrible logic. It's a structural cascade failure. We've started a countdown we can't stop. Then we find the other pyramids, Lion-O said firmly. Across dimensions. Across realities. We track down every node in the network and stabilize them before the cascade completes. A quest, Chitara said, seeing the threads of future possibility. We'd need to travel between dimensions. Find each pyramid. Face whatever guards or traps the ancients placed. All while the network decays around us. And you'd need me, came a new voice from the passage ahead. A figure emerged from the shadows. Humanoid but distinctly alien, wearing armor that combined ancient aesthetics with Goa'uld flourishes. A Talkare. I am Aldwin of the Talkare. We've been monitoring this pyramid since your dimensional storm activated it. We know what Mumm-Ra is. We know what he represents. And if he's correct about the cascade failure, the Talkare's eyes shifted to their symbiote's glowing state. Then the Talkare will help you prevent it. Because if Mumm-Ra reunifies, he becomes a threat that makes the Goa'uld look like minor irritants. The pyramid groaned. Cracks appeared in walls that had stood for millions of years. The dimensional window to Third Earth flickered, showing glimpses of other realities, dozens of them, each containing a black pyramid, each beginning to show signs of stress. Decisions later, Jack said. Running now. Move. They ran. Through passages that folded into themselves as ancient technology failed. Past hieroglyphs that sparked and died. Upstairs that existed in increasingly uncertain states of solidity. Behind them, Mumm-Ra's voice echoed one final time, the eye has come home once. It will come home again. In this dimension or another. In this lifetime or the next. I am patient, ThunderCats. I am the ever-living. And eventually, I always win. They burst from the pyramid's entrance into desert night to find Apophis's forces had completely withdrawn. The system lord stood atop a distant dune, watching through sensors, smart enough to recognize when ancient forces beyond his control were in play. The black pyramid collapsed. Not physically, it remained standing. But its energy signature died, the hieroglyphs going dark, the dimensional resonance fading to nothing. It became, in that moment, just a structure. A tomb. An empty shell around a prison that no longer held anything. Carter and Panthro ran to meet them, the blue-furred ThunderCat carrying equipment that looked like ancient technology hybridized with his own engineering. We got readings on everything. The dimensional cascade, the network structure, even coordinates for potential other pyramid locations. How many? Hammond's voice came through the radio, the general having monitored everything from Cheyenne Mountain. Panthro's expression was grim. Sensors detected resonance patterns from 43 separate dimensional frequencies before the signal degraded. 43 nodes in the prison network. We collapsed one. That leaves 42, and according to the decay rate we measured, we have approximately 6 months, Carter finished. Before enough nodes fail that Mumm-Ra's prison network collapses entirely and he reunifies across all dimensions simultaneously. The ThunderCats and SG-1 stood in the desert, watching the dead pyramid, understanding that their battle against the ever-living had just begun. And on that distant dune, Apophis smiled. Because he had sensors too. And now he knew there were 42 more sources of ancient power scattered across dimensions. 42 more opportunities to claim the technology that would make him Supreme System Lord. The race had begun. The SGC briefing room had never felt more crowded. Hammond sat at the head of the table, flanked by SG-1. The ThunderCats occupied one side, Lion-O with the Sword of Omens resting against his chair, Panthro reviewing technical data on a tablet Carter had provided, Chi-Terra in meditative stillness, and Tigra studying tactical maps displayed on the room's screens. On the other side sat Aldwin and his Talkare companion Martuf, their presence representing an alliance born of necessity rather than trust. Let me make sure I understand, Hammond said, his voice carrying the weight of a man who dealt with galaxy-threatening crises before but never quite like this. We have 42 ancient prisons scattered across different dimensions. Each one contains a fragment of a being powerful enough that the ancients, the most advanced race we've ever encountered, couldn't kill him. And we have 6 months before enough of these prisons fail that he reunifies and becomes effectively unstoppable. That's the optimistic assessment, General, Carter said, pulling up holographic data that Panthro's equipment had captured. The cascade decay isn't linear. Each prison that fails puts additional strain on the remaining nodes. The failures will accelerate. We might have less time. How much less? 4 months. Maybe 3 if multiple nodes fail simultaneously. WilyKit and WilyCat sat in the corner with Snarf, having been allowed into the briefing at Lion-O's insistence. The young ThunderCats listened with wide eyes as the scope of their situation became clear. So we need to visit 42 different dimensions, Jack said, leaning back in his chair. Find 42 pyramids. Stabilize 42 ancient prisons. All while keeping the Goa'uld, system lords, from claiming ancient technology that would make them actual gods instead of just really annoying parasites with delusions of grandeur. He looked at Hammond. Sir, permission to say this is completely insane. Denied, Colonel. Insane stopped being relevant about 3 years ago when we started stepping through a wormhole to other planets. Hammond turned to Aldwin. The Tok'ra have been monitoring the pyramid. What else do you know? Aldwin's voice shifted subtly as his symbiote, Yosef, spoke. The Tok'ra have legends of Mumm-Ra, though we knew him by other names. The first ascended. The broken god. The one who taught the Goa'uld to use the sarcophagus. Aldwin's voice returned. We believed him destroyed or myth. To learn he exists, imprisoned but alive, changes the strategic landscape significantly. How so? TLC asked. Martuf answered, his expression troubled. Because the system lords also have these legends. And they will have detected the same dimensional resonance we did when the Earth pyramid destabilized. Apophis saw what happened. He withdrew because he's smart enough to recognize when he's outmatched in the moment. But he will report to the other system lords. They will convene a summit, Daniel said, understanding the implications. The system lords will temporarily put aside their rivalries to claim technology that could shift the balance of power. Precisely, Martuf confirmed. And unlike your SGC, which is bound by ethics and strategic caution, the system lords will use any means necessary. They will send armies through dimensions. They will sacrifice entire planets' worth of Jaffa if it means claiming even one pyramid. Lion-O's hand moved to the Sword of Omens. Then we need to move faster. The eye can sense the other pyramids. I felt it when the network destabilized. It showed me flashes of other worlds, other versions of Earth and places that were never Earth at all. He looked at Hammond. General, the ThunderCats need to return to Third Earth eventually. Our people may need us. But until we stabilize this network, our duty is here. We help trigger this cascade. Code of Thundra demands we help stop it. We appreciate that, Hammond said. But you're talking about interdimensional travel. We barely understand how you arrived here in the first place. We don't have the technology to. Actually, sir, Carter interrupted, pulling up new schematics. Panthro and I have been working on that. The Black Pyramid's dimensional bridge was failing, but before it collapsed completely, we managed to scan its operational parameters. The technology is ancient, yes, but it's designed to interface with Stargates. Specifically, it uses the 9th Chevron protocol. Jack sat up straighter. The 9th Chevron? Carter, we've tried every 9th Chevron address we know. They either don't work or need power levels we can't generate. Because we've been thinking of the 9th Chevron as a gate address, Carter explained, excitement creeping into her voice. But what if it's not a destination, it's a dimensional frequency? The ancients built stargates across the galaxy, but they also built them across dimensions. The pyramid network uses 9 chevron addresses to create stable bridges between parallel realities. Panthro nodded, his engineering expertise complementing Carter's theoretical physics. On Third Earth, we have technology that accesses what we call the dimensional sea, the space between realities. It's unstable, dangerous, but navigable with the right equipment. Your Stargate network is already dimensional technology. You just haven't been using it that way. Because we need massive power, Daniel said. Even with a ZPM, we've only successfully dialed the 9th chevron once, to Destiny, an ancient ship traveling billions of light years from Earth. That's where the sword comes in, Lion-O said. The Eye of Thunder pulsed as if in agreement. The ancients designed it as a key to the pyramid network. It can provide the targeting data, the specific dimensional frequencies. And it can supplement the power requirements by channeling energy from. He paused, consulting with the sword through their mental link. From what it calls the network substrate. The dimensional structure that connects all the pyramids. Aldwin's eyes widened. You're proposing to use the prison network's own energy to travel between prisons. That's actually brilliant. And ethically questionable. We'd be weakening the network's overall power reserves by drawing on them. We're going to stabilize the network, Chitara said, her sixth sense showing her the threads clearly. The energy we borrow will return by reinforcing each node. The network was designed with redundancy. It can handle temporary power fluctuations if it means preventing total collapse. Hammond stood, moving to the window overlooking the gate room. The Stargate sat inactive, its chevrons dark, but the general had learned to see potential where others saw impossibility. Dr. Jackson, in your expert opinion, is this plan viable? Daniel removed his glasses, considering carefully. Sir, I've had ancient knowledge downloaded into my brain twice. Most of it faded, but some concepts stuck. The Alterans were masters of dimensional science, they had to be to achieve ascension. This network of pyramids is one of their greatest works, precisely because it's multidimensional. If we're careful, methodical, and very, very lucky, yes. I think we can do this. TLC. The Goa'uld will pursue this technology relentlessly, TLC said. Which means we will encounter them in multiple dimensions. We will fight. Some of us may not return. But the alternative, allowing Mumm-Ra to reunify, is unacceptable. I say we proceed. Colonel O'Neill. Jack looked at his team, then at the ThunderCats, then at the ThunderCats representatives. Sir, this is the kind of mission that gets people killed. Interdimensional travel, ancient prisons, Goa'uld competition, and an evil mummy who's been planning his escape for millions of years. It's dangerous, it's complicated, and we're probably going to regret it. He smiled grimly. Which is exactly the kind of thing SG-1 specializes in. I'm in. Hammond nodded slowly. Then we proceed. But not alone. We'll need allies. Major Carter, work with Panthro on the dimensional travel technology. Dr. Jackson, coordinate with the ThunderCats. I want intelligence on which system lords are mobilizing and where they might strike first. Colonel O'Neill, begin mission planning for team composition and equipment loadouts. He turned to Lion-O. Lord Lion-O, the ThunderCats are officially attached to Stargate Command as specialized consultants for the duration of this operation. You'll have full access to our resources, and will support your eventual return to Third Earth once this crisis is resolved. Agreed? Lion-O stood, placing his fist over his chest in salute. The ThunderCats accept. General Hammond, you've shown us honor and trust when you had no reason to. We won't forget that. See that you don't, Hammond said, but his tone was warm. Now get to work. We have a multiverse to save. The briefing broke up into organized chaos. Carter and Panthro immediately disappeared toward the labs, already arguing about power coupling configurations. Daniel and the ThunderCats moved to intelligence analysis, pulling up every reference to Mumm-Ra and dimensional technology in the ThunderCats database. TLC began reviewing combat footage from the pyramid battle, analyzing Mumm-Ra's fighting style for weaknesses. Jack found Lion-O in the corridor outside, the young lord staring at the Sword of Omens with an expression that mixed determination and doubt. Second thoughts? Jack asked. No, Lion-O said. Just thinking. I became Lord of the ThunderCats by inheritance, not by choice. My father died, and suddenly I was responsible for our people's survival. I made mistakes. Cost lives. Learned leadership the hard way. He looked at Jack. You've been doing this longer than I have. Leading people into impossible situations. How do you handle the weight of it? Jack was quiet for a moment. Honestly, I don't handle it well. I lose people, it tears me apart. I make calls that keep me up at night. But I keep doing it because the alternative is letting people die who didn't volunteer for the mission. He met Lion-O's eyes. You saved Daniel and Tigra in that pyramid. You fought Mumm-Ra even knowing he might kill you. You chose to help a planet that isn't even your own. That's not inheritance talking, kid. That's leadership. The real kind. Thunder, Lion-O said softly, the word carrying weight. Yeah, Jack agreed. Thunder. Now come on, Carter and your engineer friend are probably already arguing about quantum mechanics or whatever, and I need to make sure they don't accidentally blow up the mountain. In the lab, Panthro and Carter were indeed arguing, but it was the productive kind, two brilliant minds pushing each other towards solutions neither could reach alone. The dimensional targeting system needs a reference point, Panthro explained, sketching designs that combine ThunderCat technology with ancient principles. On Third Earth, we use the planetary magnetic field as an anchor. But here, we use the Stargate network itself, Carter finished, seeing it. Every Stargate has a unique address based on stellar constellation positioning. Those positions exist across dimensions too, they're universal constants. If we can calibrate the sword's energy signature to match gate addresses across dimensional frequencies, we create a navigation system that's accurate across realities, Panthro concluded. Major Carter, you're brilliant. So are you, Carter said with genuine respect. Your people's technology is centuries ahead of ours in some applications. If we survive this, I'd love to study ThunderCat engineering principles. If we survive, I'll teach you personally, Panthro promised. Chitara found TLC in the armory, methodically checking weapons with Jaffa precision. She moved with her characteristic grace, her staff in hand, and stood silently beside him until he acknowledged her presence. You wish to ask something, TLC said. You were a first prime, Chitara said. You served a false god. You led armies in his name. But you chose to rebel. To fight for freedom. Her eyes met his. My sight shows me a thread. A possibility. In the battles to come, you will face your past. Jaffa who once served beside you. Will you be able to fight them? If they stand with the Goa'uld, I will fight them, TLC said without hesitation. I grieve for every Jaffa who remains enslaved. But I will not allow sentiment to prevent me from protecting Earth or achieving freedom for my people. He paused. You also lead warriors. You also must make difficult choices. We are alike in this, Chitara of the ThunderCats. Thunder, Chitara said, the word carrying understanding. Indeed, TLC replied. In Hammond's office, the general stood with Aldwin and Martuf, discussing the political implications of their mission. The Takare Council is divided, Aldwin admitted. Some see this as opportunity. If SG-1 and the ThunderCats stabilize the pyramid network, it prevents Mumm-Ra's return without Takare resources being expended. Others fear that involving ourselves in ancient affairs will draw attention we cannot afford. The Goa'uld already hunt us relentlessly. And yet you're here, Hammond observed. Martuf spoke. Because some threats transcend politics. Mumm-Ra taught the Goa'uld to use the sarcophagus. That single act has caused millions of years of suffering across the galaxy. If he reunifies with all the knowledge he's gained since the ancients imprisoned him, he shook his head. The Takare will help. We'll provide intelligence, gate addresses, and operatives where we can. But understand, General, we're fighting for survival, not glory. Survival works for me, Hammond said. Keep us informed of System Lord movements. If we're going to stay ahead of them, we need to know which dimensions they're targeting. As night fell over Cheyenne Mountain, the teams worked through exhaustion. Carter and Panthro built their dimensional navigator. Daniel and the Tok'ra compiled target lists. Jack and TLC planned tactical approaches. And Lion-O stood before the Stargate with the Sword of Omens, learning to read the dimensional frequencies the eye revealed. WilyKit and WilyCat watched from the control room with Snarf, the young ThunderCats understanding they were witnessing something historic. They're going to save everyone, aren't they? WilyKit whispered. They're going to try, Snarf replied. That's what heroes do, Snarf. They try, even when it's impossible. On the briefing room's main screen, Carter displayed the first target. A dimensional frequency that the sword had identified. A parallel Earth where ancient Egypt never fell, where pharaohs still ruled, and where a black pyramid stood in the center of a city of millions. That's our first stop, Jack said, studying the data. A dimension where Egypt went a different direction. Probably has its own Goa'uld problem. Definitely has a pyramid we need to stabilize. And based on Tok'ra intelligence, Apophis is already sending scouts there. Then we beat him to it, Lion-O said, the sword blazing in agreement. When do we leave? Hammond checked his watch. 48 hours. Use that time to rest, plan, and prepare. Because once you step through that gate into another dimension, you're beyond any help we can provide. You'll be on your own. The teams dispersed to their preparations, each carrying the weight of impossible responsibility. And in orbit around Earth, a Goa'uld Teltac cargo ship cloaked and hidden, Apophis's spy transmitted everything he'd learned to his master. The dimensional frequencies. The pyramid locations. The ThunderCats' abilities. All of it. Apophis received the intelligence with satisfaction. Let the Tauri and their feline allies do the hard work of finding the pyramids. He would follow, claim what they discovered, and emerge as Supreme System Lord while they exhausted themselves preventing Mumm-Ra's return. The game had begun. And Apophis had always been a patient player. 48 hours passed in a blur of preparation that felt simultaneously too long and nowhere near enough. The SGC gate room buzzed with activity as technicians made final adjustments to the equipment that would, theoretically, allow them to dial a 9th chevron address to another dimension. Carter and Panthro had barely slept, their collaborative efforts producing a device that looked like ancient technology had a child with ThunderCat engineering and raised it on Earth military pragmatism. The dimensional frequency modulator, Carter explained to the assembled teams, gesturing to the device mounted beside the DHD. It interfaces with the Sword of Omens to translate the eye's dimensional perception into gate coordinates. When Lion-O activates the eye and focuses on a target pyramid, the DFM will convert that information into a 9th chevron address. And we're sure this won't, say, explode the gate? Jack asked from where he stood with SG-1, loaded with tactical gear and enough ammunition to fight a small war. 73% sure, Panthro said with engineer's honesty. I'm sorry, did you say 73? 74 if we round up, Carter offered helpfully. Jack looked at Hammond. Sir, for the record, I'm noting that we're about to step through an experimental dimensional portal with a 26% chance of catastrophic failure. Noted, Colonel, Hammond said from the control room. But since the alternative is allowing an ancient evil to reunify across the multiverse, I'm authorizing the mission. Try not to get catastrophically failed. That's what I put on all my performance reviews, sir. The mission team assembled before the gate, SG-1 in full combat loadout, the ThunderCats armed and ready, and 2 Tok'ra, Aldwin and Martuf, representing their people's commitment to the mission. WilyKit, WilyCat, and Snarf remained in the control room with Hammond, the young ThunderCats trying to hide their worry behind brave faces. Lion-O stepped forward, the Sword of Omens blazing as he activated its power. Sight beyond sight. The eye projected forward, painting the Stargate in crimson light. But this time, the light didn't stop at the gate, it passed through, reaching into spaces between dimensions, searching for the resonance of another pyramid. The sword showed Lion-O visions, a world where pyramids dominated skylines. Where hieroglyphs glowed on buildings that stretched toward alien stars. Where humans wore ancient Egyptian regalia not as costume but as daily dress. And at the city's heart, a black pyramid twice the size of the one in the Sahara, pulsing with dark energy. I see it, Lion-O said. A dimension where Egypt never fell. Where it became the dominant civilization. The pyramid is active, drawing power from the network. And, his expression darkened. There are Jaffa there. Gold armor. Apophis' marking. He beat us there, TLC said grimly. Then we'd better crash his party, Jack said. He nodded to Carter. Light it up, Major. Carter worked the DHD with Panthro beside her, entering the coordinates as the DFM translated the sword's vision into gate addresses. The Stargate activated normally for the first 7 chevrons, establishing spatial coordinates. The 8th chevron locked with a sound like reality bending. And when the 9th chevron engaged, the wormhole that formed wasn't the usual blue-white shimmer of conventional gate travel. It was prismatic. Fractured light that contained colors that shouldn't exist in 3-dimensional space. The event horizon rippled with dimensional instability, and sensors throughout the mountain screamed warnings about exotic energy readings. Wormhole established, the gate technician reported, his voice uncertain. But sir, the stability readings are. I've never seen anything like this. How long do we have? Hammond asked. Unknown. The wormhole could stay open for 38 minutes like normal, or it could collapse in 38 seconds. There's no precedent for this. Then we go now, Lion-O said. He looked back at WilyKit and WilyCat, gave them a reassuring nod, then charged through the shimmering portal. The ThunderCats followed without hesitation, Panthro, Chitara, and Tigra moving with the unity of warriors who'd fought side by side for years. SG-1 went next, Jack leading with the practiced confidence of someone who'd stepped through the impossible so many times it was just Tuesday. The Talkare brought up the rear, and the wormhole collapsed behind them with a sound like dimensions sighing. The transition was nothing like normal gate travel. Instead of the brief moment of cold and disorientation, Lion-O experienced subjective minutes of falling through kaleidoscopic space where he saw echoes of other realities, versions of Earth where history had branched in infinite directions. He saw worlds where the Goa'uld had won, where humanity never developed, where the ancients never left, where the Stargate had never been discovered. Then reality snapped back into focus, and he was stumbling through a gate into a world that was Earth but not. The gate room was Egyptian temple architecture taken to impossible extremes. Massive columns carved with hieroglyphs that actually moved, animating stories of pharaohs and gods. The walls were gold-plated, inlaid with lapis lazuli and precious stones. Braziers burned with eternal flames. And stationed around the gate, wearing the armor of ancient Egyptian guards enhanced with Goa'uld technology, stood 24 soldiers who immediately raised staff weapons. Kree Hole, their commander shouted. Identify yourselves. Jack raised his hands slowly, P90 pointed at the ceiling. Hi. We're travelers. Just passing through. Don't mind us, we'll be on our way shortly. You emerge from the Chapa AI wearing strange armor and bearing weapons, the commander said, his Egyptian Arabic filtered through what Daniel recognized as a gate-integrated universal translator. You will surrender or be executed. Or, Lion-O said, the Sword of Omens blazing, you could take us to your pharaoh. We have information about the Black Pyramid. About the threat it represents. About why Apophis' forces are already in your city. The commander's eyes widened at Apophis' name. The false god Apophis? Here. In sacred Thebes. He gestured sharply. Lower your weapons but do not sheath them. You will accompany us to the palace of 10,000 years. Pharaoh Khafre will decide your fate. They were escorted through streets that made Daniel's archaeologist heart sing and break simultaneously. This was Egypt as it might have been if Alexander had never conquered, if Rome had never risen, if the civilization had continued unbroken for 3,000 years. Pyramids served as government buildings. Temples operated as universities. The Nile flowed through the city in engineered channels, powering what looked like ancient-inspired technology adapted to Egyptian aesthetics. It's beautiful, Daniel breathed, taking in architecture that combined ancient precision with technologies that shouldn't be possible. It's a target, Jack countered, noting defensive positions and sight lines with tactical assessment. Apophis knows we'd come here. He's either waiting for us to do the heavy lifting, or he's planning an ambush. Maybe both. Chitara's eyes were distant with sixth sense. I see threads converging. This world sits at a nexus point in the dimensional network. The pyramid here doesn't just anchor this dimension, it connects to 7 others. Destabilize it, and the cascade accelerates dramatically. Which is exactly why Apophis would target it, TLC said. If he cannot claim all pyramids, he will ensure no one else can stabilize them. Chaos serves his purposes. The palace of 10,000 years rose before them. Perhaps 30, wearing the traditional double crown but also tactical armor that suggested this was a ruler who led armies personally. His advisors included priests who Daniel recognized as scientists from their instruments, and military commanders whose bearing matched TLC's warrior discipline. Travelers from beyond the Chapai, Khafre said, his voice carrying authority earned rather than inherited. My guards report you speak of Apophis and the Black Pyramid. You have 60 seconds to explain why I shouldn't execute you as spies. Lion-O stepped forward, the Sword of Omens dimmed but still visible on his back. Because Apophis is already here, and he's after technology that will make him unstoppable. The Black Pyramid in your city isn't just a monument, it's a prison. And if Apophis claims it, he gains access to knowledge that predates the Goa'uld themselves. Khafre's expression shifted from suspicion to alarm. The Pyramid of the Ever-Living. We've guarded it for 3,000 years, ever since our ancestors discovered it couldn't be destroyed and learned to contain its influence. You're saying Apophis seeks to breach it? We're saying he's probably already trying, Jack said. Look, Your Highness, we don't have time for the full briefing. But here's the short version: evil mummy sealed in pyramid wants to break free and conquer the universe. We're trying to stop that. Apophis wants to help the mummy because he's an idiot who thinks he can control it. Spoiler, he can't. We need access to your pyramid to stabilize it before everything goes to hell. Questions? Many, Khafre said dryly. But you speak with the bluntness of warriors who've seen true danger. And if Apophis is truly here, he gestured, and a priest activated a holographic display that showed the city from above. At its center, the Black Pyramid pulsed with dark energy. And surrounding it, barely visible in thermal imaging, were hundreds of heat signatures in Jaffa formation. They've cloaked a teltac above the pyramid, TLC analyzed. Deployed troops under cover of night. They're preparing to breach. Then we've already failed, one of Khafre's advisors said. If Apophis as Jaffa enter the pyramid, they'll die, Chitara interrupted, her vision showing her the threads. Mumm-Ra kills those who enter with greed in their hearts. But their deaths will feed the pyramid systems. Provide power. Accelerate the dimensional destabilization. Her eyes found Lion-O's. We have perhaps 1 hour before the cascade reaches critical threshold in this node. Khafre stood, his decision made with the speed of someone used to crisis leadership. Then we have no choice but to trust you. My royal guard will accompany you to the pyramid. We'll engage Apophis's forces while you do whatever you must to seal the Ever-Living's prison. He looked at Daniel. You wear the expression of a scholar. Tell me true, can this be done? Daniel met the pharaoh's eyes. I don't know. But we have to try. Because if we fail here, 41 other dimensions face the same threat. And eventually, Mumm-Ra won't be imprisoned anywhere. He'll be free. Everywhere. All at once. Then let us ensure that doesn't happen, Kafir said. He drew a khopesh that glowed with embedded naquata, and his guards responded with disciplined precision. For Egypt. For Earth. For all the worlds that depend on our success. For Thundera, Lion-O added, raising the Sword of Omens. For those who cannot fight for themselves, TLC said. They moved out as one force, SG-1, ThunderCats, Takare, and Royal Guard, racing toward the Black Pyramid where Apophis's forces were already breaching the entrance. Above them, the Teltax cloak failed as Egyptian defense systems locked onto it, and air-to-air fire lit the night sky. The battle for the first-dimensional node had begun. And in the pyramid's depths, Mumm-Ra's fragment felt the disturbance and smiled with withered lips. Let them come. Let them fight. Every moment of conflict, every drop of blood spilled, fed power to the dimensional network. The cascade was accelerating exactly as planned. The ancients had built a prison. But even the best locks eventually fail when enough force is applied from enough directions simultaneously. And Mumm-Ra had all the time in the world to wait for his inevitable victory. The Black Pyramid of Thebes towered over the ancient city like a wound in reality, its obsidian surface drinking light and radiating malevolence that Lion-O felt in his bones. Apophis as Jaffa had established a perimeter, their staff weapons creating overlapping fields of fire that would shred any conventional assault. But conventional wasn't in anyone's playbook tonight. Tigra, Chitera. Flank left through the market district, Lion-O commanded, falling naturally into tactical leadership alongside Jack O'Neill. Use stealth and speed. Draw their attention, create chaos in their formation. TLC, you're with me and the Royal Guard, Jack added. We'll hit them from the right, make them think that's the main assault. Pharaoh Kafir, your people know the terrain, use it. Panthro, Carter, Aldwin. You three get to the pyramid entrance the moment we create an opening, Lion-O continued. Daniel, Martuf, you're with them. We need you inside analyzing whatever ancient systems are still operational. Kafir's Royal Guard moved with disciplined precision, their enhancement through ancient-derived technology making them nearly as formidable as Jaffa. The pharaoh himself led from the front, his khopesh blazing with naquata energy as he gave commands in tactical Egyptian that his troops executed flawlessly. The assault began with Chitera's blur of motion. She moved so fast she seemed to teleport, her staff striking Jaffa weapons from hands before they could fire. Tigra followed invisible, his Billo whip lashing out from nowhere to entangle and disable. The Jaffa formation wavered, trying to target enemies they couldn't track. Jack and TLC opened fire simultaneously, P90 and staff weapon creating a devastating crossfire that dropped Jaffa with ruthless efficiency. The Royal Guard charged behind them, their enhanced speed and ancient weapons cutting through enemy positions with coordinated brutality. And Lion-O charged straight up the center, the Sword of Omens blazing like a star, drawing every eye and every weapon toward him. Staff blasts converged on his position, but the sword moved faster than thought, deflecting energy bolts with the flat of the blade while the eye projected tactical data directly into Lion-O's mind. He saw threats before they materialized, adjusted his path through probability fields that Chitera would recognize, fought with the certainty of someone who could see 3 seconds into the future through ancient technology. He fights like Jaffa legends described the first ones, one of Kafir's advisors breathed, watching from a command position. He fights like a ThunderCat, the pharaoh corrected. Like someone who knows the code demands victory without unnecessary death. Indeed, Lion-O's strikes disabled rather than killed, shattering staff weapons, cutting armor straps, using the flat of his blade to concuss rather than cleave. The Jaffa lines broke. Not from overwhelming force, but from tactical confusion. They'd been trained to fight human armies and Goa'uld rivals. They had no framework for facing feline warriors who moved like liquid, a pharaoh leading enhanced soldiers with ancient technology, and SG-1's practiced coordination. Opening clear. Jack shouted. Science team, move. Carter, Panthro, Daniel, Aldwin, and Martouf sprinted for the pyramid entrance, their path covered by withering suppressive fire. They reached the obsidian wall where hieroglyphs pulsed with dark invitation. Same protocol as Earth, Daniel said, finding the setting sun wrapped in serpent coils. Press 3 times with respect, not demand. Panthro did so, his engineer's hands gentle despite their strength. The wall dissolved into nothing, revealing passage into darkness. They entered, and the battle sounds faded behind sealed ancient architecture. Inside, the pyramid was different from its Earth counterpart. This one was active, fully powered, its systems operational in ways that made Carter's scientific mind race. Hieroglyphs covered every surface, but these weren't static, they moved, reformed, told stories that updated in real time. It's a chronicle, Daniel breathed, running his fingers near the symbols. The pyramid is recording everything. Every dimensional fluctuation, every attempt to breach it, every moment of the last 3,000 years. It's not just a prison, it's an observer. A historian. And a relay node, Panthro added, studying technical readouts from equipment that combined his ThunderCats sensors with Carter's ancient gene-activated scanner. This pyramid connects to 7 others across dimensional space. The energy flow is bidirectional, it supports them, they support it. Symbiotic network architecture. Which means if we stabilize this node, we stabilize 7 others simultaneously, Carter said, seeing the cascade implications. But if we make a mistake, we destabilize 8 at once, Aldwin finished grimly. The Takare engineering texts warned of recursive failure in ancient systems. One error propagates geometrically. They descended deeper. The passages here were less disorienting than Earth's pyramid, as if this structure was more complete, more intentional. At the chamber's heart, they found not a sarcophagus but something else entirely. A crystalline matrix suspended in energy fields. Thousands of connection points spreading like neural networks. And at its center, barely visible through layers of ancient containment, a figure. Not Mumm-Ra. Not fully. This was a fragment, a piece of consciousness separated from the whole, aware but incomplete. Its eyes opened, glowing red through translucent prison walls. Inheritors, the fragment spoke, its voice harmonizing across multiple frequencies. You've come to seal me tighter. To reinforce chains the Alterans forged. But you don't understand what you're sealing away. Enlighten us, Daniel said, recorder running, capturing every word. Knowledge, the fragment said. The Alterans achieved ascension through sacrifice, releasing the physical, abandoning the material universe. I achieved ascension through integration, retaining form while accessing higher dimensions. They called it corruption. I call it evolution's next step. The red eyes fixed on Carter. Major Samantha Carter. I see your desires. You wish to understand. To learn. To push human knowledge beyond current limitations. I could teach you. Show you secrets the Alterans kept hidden. No deal, Carter said flatly. We've met enough beings offering power in exchange for freedom. It never ends well. Then you'll fail, the fragment said. Because you don't know how to stabilize this node. The Alteran's lock mechanism requires input you cannot provide. Ancient gene activation, yes, but also something more. Something only I possess. Panthro was already at the crystalline matrix's control interface, his engineering mind parsing ancient systems. He's lying. Partially. The stabilization sequence does require ancient gene authorization, that's Major Carter. But the secondary lock, he paused, studying the schematics. It requires a key encoded with this dimension's specific frequency. A resonance match. The Sword of Omens, Martouf said, understanding. Lionel's blade carries dimensional signatures from its creation. If we can attune it to this reality's frequency, we create the key the ancients intended, Daniel finished. But we need Lion-O here to do it. Outside, the battle had shifted. Apophis's Jaffa were retreating, not defeated, but regrouping. And from the Teltac descending through defensive fire, a figure emerged that made TLC's expression harden with old hatred. Apophis himself, flanked by his first prime and personal guard, strode toward the pyramid with the arrogance of a false god who'd never learned humility. His eyes glowed gold, his voice carried amplification. Kaori. Feline warriors. Pharaoh of this primitive dimension. You've done well to breach my forces. But now you face a god. Kneel before Apophis, and I shall be merciful in your slavery. That's not gonna happen, Jack shouted back, reloading his P90. But points for confidence. Lion-O stood before the pyramid entrance, the sword blazing as he felt the pull from within. Daniel's voice crackled over the radio they distributed, Lion-O, we need you inside. The stabilization requires the sword's dimensional resonance. But if you leave that entrance unguarded, Apophis enters and corrupts whatever we're trying to fix, Lion-O finished. He looked at his ThunderCats, at SG-1, at the royal guard who'd fought beside them. Then we hold here. No one gets past. Apophis laughed, the sound carrying Goa'uld reverb. You cannot stop me, cat creature. I am immortal. I am divine. I am. A staff weapon blast from TLC caught Apophis square in the chest, knocking the system lord back 3 meters. TLC's expression remained stoic. You are neither immortal nor divine, false god. You are merely difficult to kill. But I have much practice. The battle reignited with renewed fury. Apophis's personal guard were elite. Horus guards with enhanced armor and centuries of combat experience. They fought with coordination that pushed even the combined forces back. Chi-Tera appeared beside Lion-O, her precognition screaming warnings. They're going to overwhelm us. I see the thread, Apophis reaches the entrance in 4 minutes. Once inside, he'll use his hand device on the containment systems. He'll free Mumm-Ra's fragment, try to claim its knowledge. Then we hold for 4 minutes, Lion-O said simply. Thunder, 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 ThunderCats, ho. The sword's light exploded outward, and Lion-O led a charge that crashed into Apophis's elite guard like a hurricane. Panthro's nunchaku shattered armor. Tigra's invisibility made him impossible to target. Chi-Tera moved faster than staff blasts could track. And behind them, SG-1 and the Royal Guard fought with everything they had. Inside the pyramid, Carter placed her hand on the ancient interface. The gene activation responded, systems powering up, but the secondary lock remained sealed. Daniel, tell Lion-O we need him now. We're running out of time, the dimensional stress is building. I can see it on the sensors. Daniel keyed his radio. Lion-O, we need. I know, Lion-O interrupted, breathless from combat. But if I leave this entrance, Apophis gets in. If he gets in, everything we're doing is meaningless. There has to be another way. The sword pulsed 3 times. Urgent, insistent. And suddenly Lion-O understood. The eye doesn't need to be here physically. It can project across distance. I can channel the dimensional resonance from here if you can create a receiver inside. Panthro. Carter called. On it, the ThunderCat engineer responded, already reconfiguring equipment. If Lion-O projects through the pyramid's internal relay systems, I can capture the resonance and feed it to the stabilization matrix. It's not ideal, but it's what we've got, Daniel finished. Lion-O, do it. Outside, Lion-O raised the sword high. Sight beyond sight. Eye of Thundera, show the path. Bridge the dimensions, seal the lock, restore what the ancients built. The eye blazed with power that made every ancient system in the city activate simultaneously. The beam struck the pyramid's apex, penetrated through miles of obsidian and crystal, reached the chamber where Carter and Panthro waited. The dimensional resonance flooded through Panthro's receiver. Carter fed it into the stabilization matrix. And the crystalline structure responded, its connection points lighting up in sequence as ancient locks engaged one by one. The Mumm-Ra fragment screamed, not pain, but rage at opportunity lost. No. I was so close. After millennia, I felt the chains weakening, felt freedom approaching, and you seal me tighter. You doom this universe to ignorance. You. The containment solidified. The fragment's voice cut off mid-curse. And throughout the dimensional network, 7 other pyramids stabilized in cascade synchronization. But the energy backlash was massive. The pyramid shook. Ancient systems overloaded from stress. And in the chamber, a critical power conduit exploded, sending Panthro flying into the wall with bone-crushing force. Panthro. Carter rushed to him, medical training taking over. He was breathing, but unconscious, blue fur matted with blood. Get him out, Daniel ordered. Aldwin, Martuf, help her. I'll finish the sequence. Outside, the pyramid stabilization created an energy pulse that washed over the battlefield like a wave. Jaffa stumbled. Ancient enhanced royal guards felt their technology surge with renewed power. And Apophis, standing before the entrance, felt the moment of opportunity slip away. No, the system lord snarled. I will not be denied. He raised his hand device, Karakesh, its energy building to lethal levels, aimed directly at Lion-O. The blast released. Lion-O tried to dodge, but exhaustion from channeling the eye made him a fraction too slow. The energy caught him in the chest, lifted him off his feet, and slammed him into the pyramid wall. Lion-O. Cheetara's voice carried horror. The Sword of Omens fell from nerveless fingers, its light dimming. And Apophis smiled, stepping toward the fallen ThunderCat and the unguarded entrance to the pyramid, where ancient secrets awaited those bold enough, or foolish enough, to claim them. Apophis reached for the Sword of Omens, his hand device still crackling with residual energy, his eyes gleaming with triumph. But the moment his fingers touched the blade, the eye exploded with light so brilliant it forced everyone on the battlefield to shield their eyes. The sword rejected him. Violently. Ancient energy, pure, uncompromised, carrying the original intent of the Alterans who forged it, surged through Apophis's nervous system. The system lord screamed, thrown backward, his hand device shattering, the symbiote in his body convulsing from power it was never designed to withstand. Lion-O's hand closed around the sword's hilt. He was wounded, bleeding, but alive. And the sword's healing properties, something the ancients had encoded for their chosen bearers, flowed through him, knitting torn tissue, restoring strength. The Sword of Omens answers to honor, Lion-O said, rising to his feet. And you, Apophis, have none. TLC appeared beside him, staff weapon leveled. Your forces retreat. Your elite guard falls. And you stand alone before those you would enslave. How does it feel, false god, to taste defeat? Apophis's expression twisted through rage, calculation, and finally pragmatic retreat. This isn't over, Tauri. ThunderCat. You've stabilized one node. 41 remain. And I have eternity to claim what should be mine. His eyes found Lion-O's. We will meet again. And next time, I will be prepared for your ancient toy. He activated a personal transport device, Asgard beaming technology stolen and corrupted, and vanished in a flash of light. His surviving Jaffa executed a tactical withdrawal, beaming to the Teltac that climbed desperately away from Egyptian air defenses. Jack lowered his P-90, breathing hard. I really hate it when they get away. Indeed, TLC agreed. But we have achieved our primary objective. The pyramid is stabilized. Inside, Daniel helped Carter carry Panthro toward the exit, the ThunderCat engineer regaining consciousness with a groan. Did it work? Please tell me we didn't just blow up a dimensional node. It worked, Carter confirmed, grinning despite exhaustion. 8 pyramids stabilized. Network stress reduced by 19%. We just bought ourselves more time. They emerged into dawn light. The Black Pyramid's malevolent energy had diminished. Not gone, but contained, controlled, locked as the ancients intended. Pharaoh Khafre approached, his royal guard weary but victorious. You've saved our city, the pharaoh said. Protected our world from something we've guarded against for 3,000 years but never truly understood. Egypt owes you a debt. No debt, Lion-O said, sheathing the sword. We did what the Code of Thundra demands. What honor requires. Then allow me to offer alliance instead of debt, Khafre proposed. When you travel to other dimensions, other realities where pyramids must be stabilized, call upon Egypt. We will send our royal guard through your Chapai. We will fight beside you. Because some threats transcend dimensional boundaries. Jack exchanged glances with Hammond through the radio link they'd maintained. General. Accepted, Hammond's voice came through. Pharaoh Khafre, Stargate Command welcomes Egyptian alliance. We'll establish formal protocols when this crisis concludes. The team gathered before the Stargate, battered but alive. Chi-Tera helped Lion-O walk, his wounds still healing despite the sword's efforts. Panthro leaned on Carter, the two engineers already discussing design improvements to the dimensional navigation system. Tigra, TLC, and the Takare formed rear guard, watching for any sign of Apophis's return. Daniel activated the Stargate, dialing home with coordinates that felt impossibly precious after their first interdimensional mission. The wormhole formed, prismatic and beautiful and terrifying in its implications. 41 nodes remain, Chi-Tera said quietly, her sight showing her the threads. Each one more dangerous than the last. Each one guarded by versions of enemies we know, or worse, enemies we've never imagined. Then we face them, Lion-O said simply. One dimension at a time. One pyramid at a time. Until Mumm-Ra's prison network is stable and his threat is ended. Thunder, Tigra said. Thunder, 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 Panthro added, managing a grin despite his injuries. ThunderCats, ho, they said together. And SG-1, hearing the battle cry that had sustained these warriors through impossible odds, couldn't help but smile. You know what? Jack said. That's actually pretty catchy. Maybe we should get a motto. We have one, O'Neill, TLC said. Indeed. Yeah, okay, that works too. They stepped through the gate together, humans, ThunderCats, and Takare. Returning to Earth with the first victory in a war that would span realities. Behind them, Pharaoh Khafre watched the Chapai deactivate, already preparing his forces for the next call to battle. In the SGC gate room, Wily Kit and Wily Cat rushed to embrace their returning team, Snarf fussing over everyone's injuries with worried efficiency. Hammond descended from the control room, his expression carrying the weight of what they'd accomplished and what still lay ahead. Mission report can wait until medical clearance, the general said. Dr. Fraser, check them over. Especially Panthro, I'm told he took a hit from an exploding ancient power conduit. I'm fine, Snarf interjected, then caught himself. I mean, Panthro is fine. Mostly. He should still see the doctor, Snarf. As the team dispersed to medical, debriefing, and much-needed rest, Lion-O found himself standing before the Stargate with Daniel, both of them looking at the inactive ring that connected to more worlds, more realities, than either had imagined possible. 41 more, Lion-O said. 41 more, Daniel confirmed. Each one a different Earth, or a different reality entirely. Different cultures, different threats, different versions of enemies and allies. It's going to be the most important archaeological and anthropological study ever conducted. And the most dangerous. But necessary, Lion-O said, his hand on the sword. The ancients made a mistake when they created Mumm-Ra. They tried to force evolution, to shortcut ascension, and created something that could threaten the entire multiverse. We're not just sealing prison cells, we're correcting an ancient error. Making sure their legacy doesn't destroy everything they tried to protect. That's very philosophical for someone who just got hand-devised by a Goa'uld, Daniel observed with a smile. The sword teaches, Lion-O said simply. Through the eye, I see not just what is, but what could be. And I see a future where the prison network holds. Where Mumm-Ra remains divided, contained, his threat neutralized. But only if we keep fighting. Only if we don't give up. In the infirmary, Dr. Fraser cleared most of the team with orders for rest and light duty. Panthro would need observation for potential ancient energy exposure, but his ThunderCat constitution was already healing damage that would have killed a human. Carter sat beside his bed, tablet in hand, already designing improvements. Next time, we need better surge protection. And maybe a remote activation system so the engineer doesn't have to be standing next to the exploding conduit. Next time, I'll duck faster, Panthro said with a weak smile. But Major Carter, what we built worked. We actually stabilized a dimensional node. We proved it's possible. We proved we can do it once, Carter corrected. We need to do it 41 more times, each one potentially different, each pyramid protected by whatever that dimension's version of the Goa'uld or worse has put in place. She paused. But yes. We did it. Together. In Hammond's office, the general briefed Pentagon leadership via secure video link, explaining the mission's success and the strategic implications of interdimensional warfare against both Mumm-Ra's prison network and competing Goa'uld interests. The Joint Chiefs were skeptical. The President was concerned about resource allocation. The IOA representatives demanded oversight. Hammond listened patiently, then delivered his assessment with the authority of someone who'd seen firsthand what was at stake. Sirs, this isn't optional. We're not choosing to engage in this mission, the mission is happening whether we participate or not. Apophis and the other system lords are already pursuing these pyramids. If we don't stabilize the network, someone else will destabilize it, either through incompetence or malice. And when Mumm-Ra reunifies across 43 dimensions simultaneously, he becomes a threat that makes the Goa'uld look like a minor inconvenience. He paused. We have allies now. The ThunderCats bring capabilities we don't possess. The Talk-Ra provide intelligence. And we're building a coalition across dimensions. Egypt from the reality we just visited has committed forces. We can win this. But only if we commit fully. The authorization came through. Operation Pyramid Watch was officially sanctioned, with SG-1 and the ThunderCats as primary field teams, supported by Talk-Ra intelligence and interdimensional allies as they were recruited. That night, the teams gathered in the commissary, exhausted, bandaged, but alive. WilyKit and WilyCat demonstrated their trick capsules to fascinated SF personnel. Snarf complained about the quality of Earth food while eating 3 helpings. Panthro and Carter argued good-naturedly about quantum mechanics. Chitara and Daniel discussed the philosophical implications of multiple realities. Tigra and TLC compared combat techniques with the mutual respect of master warriors. And Lion-O sat with Jack O'Neill, both leaders sharing the comfortable silence of those who'd been through hell together and survived. You know, Jack said finally, when Daniel found that pyramid in the desert, I thought it was just going to be another Tuesday. Ancient artifact, potential Goa'uld threat, save the day, paperwork. He took a drink of coffee. I did not have interdimensional cat warriors fighting an evil mummy across the multiverse on my bingo card. Lion-O laughed. A genuine sound despite exhaustion. When the dimensional storm hit Third Earth, I thought we'd just find a way home. I didn't expect to find another Earth, another civilization worth protecting, or allies like SG-1. He met Jack's eyes. But the code of Thundera is clear. We fight for those who can't fight for themselves. Even if that means fighting across realities we never knew existed. Code of Thundera, Jack repeated thoughtfully. You know, we could use something like that. A reminder of why we do this. Why we keep stepping through that gate even when it's terrifying. You have it already, Lion-O said. You call it duty, honor, protecting Earth. But it's the same principle. Fight for others. Never give up. Stand together. He raised his water glass. To codes we keep, whatever we call them. Jack clinked his coffee mug against Lion-O's glass. To codes. And to one down, 41 to go. Across the commissary, the assembled warriors. Human, ThunderCat, and ThunderCats raised their own glasses in silent acknowledgement. They had won the first battle. The Black Pyramid of Egypt that never fell was stabilized. 8 nodes secured through dimensional cascade. Mumm-Ra's reunification delayed. But the war was far from over. Apophis had retreated, but he would return with greater forces, better preparation, and the ruthless determination of a false god who tasted power beyond his current reach. Other system lords would join the hunt. The prison network would continue to decay, node by node, unless every single pyramid could be stabilized. And somewhere, across 41 different dimensions, fragments of Mumm-Ra waited in their sealed prisons, feeling the chains weaken, dreaming of the day when the ever-living would be whole again. But tonight, in this moment, in this reality, the forces of honor and duty had proven that the impossible was merely difficult. That ancient mistakes could be corrected. That beings from different worlds, different realities, could stand together against darkness. The Sword of Omens rested against Lion-O's chair, its eye dimmed but watchful. Through it, Lion-O could sense the dimensional network stretching across the multiverse, 41 pyramids calling like distant lights in infinite darkness. 41 missions. 41 battles. 41 chances to either save reality or watch it crumble. Tomorrow we plan the next mission, Hammond had said before leaving them to their rest. We've identified 3 high-priority nodes based on ThunderCats intelligence and the sword's dimensional mapping. You'll have 12 hours to rest, brief, and prepare. Then we go again. Tomorrow. Always tomorrow. Another gate to step through. Another dimension to save. Another fragment of ancient evil to contain. But tonight they had earned their rest. Tonight they could breathe, heal, and remember why they fought. For Earth. For Thundera. For all the worlds that depended on warriors willing to stand in the gap between civilization and chaos. For the code that said some things were worth fighting for, even across infinite realities. Thunder, thunder, thunder. ThunderCats, ho. Indeed. The ThunderCats' arrival through the Stargate had changed everything. What began as a freak-dimensional storm and an archaeological dig in the Sahara had unveiled a threat spanning the multiverse, Mumm-Ra the Ever-Living, sealed across 43 dimensions by the ancients, his prison network slowly failing after millions of years. Lion-O and his warriors had proven themselves not just capable fighters, but essential allies. The Sword of Omens' dimensional navigation capabilities, combined with Earth's Stargate technology and ThunderCats intelligence, created the foundation for Operation Pyramid Watch, a campaign that would determine the fate of countless realities. Apophis and the System Lords had declared their interest, turning the mission into a race against enemies who would sacrifice anything to claim ancient power. But SG-1 and the ThunderCats had shown that honor and teamwork could triumph over superior numbers and ruthless ambition. 8 pyramids stabilized. 41 remained. 6 months, perhaps less, before the cascade failures allowed Mumm-Ra to reunify. The clock was ticking across dimensional space. But General Hammond had assembled the right team. SG-1's experience with ancient technology and Goa'uld tactics. The ThunderCats' unique abilities and unwavering code. The ThunderCats' intelligence network and genetic advantages. And now, allies from other dimensions like Pharaoh Khafre's Egypt, willing to fight for realities beyond their own. The mission files in Hammond's office held coordinates to 41 different Earths, some recognizable, others utterly alien. Worlds where Rome never fell. Where the Goa'uld won. Where humanity ascended. Where the Stargate remained buried and undiscovered. Each one containing a black pyramid, a fragment of Mumm-Ra, and challenges no one could predict. Lion-O stood in the gate room late that night, unable to sleep despite exhaustion. The Sword of Omens showed him glimpses, threads of future possibility. He saw battles yet to come. Dimensions where allies became enemies and enemies became allies. Pyramids guarded by beings that made Apophis look weak. And always, at the edge of vision, Mumm-Ra's red eyes watching, waiting, planning. But he also saw victory. Saw the prison network holding. Saw his team standing together when the final pyramid was stabilized and the Ever-Living's threat was ended. Chitara joined him, her sixth sense having shown her he'd be here. Second thoughts. No, Lion-O said. Just thinking about how far we are from Third Earth. From home. Wondering if Wily Kit and Wily Cat will even remember Thundra by the time we finish this mission. They'll remember, Chitara assured him. Because we'll tell them the stories. Teach them the code. Show them that home isn't just a place, it's who you are, who you fight for, who you stand with. She smiled. And when this is over, we'll find our way back. The sword will show us the path. Thunder, Lion-O agreed softly. Somewhere in orbit, invisible to Earth sensors, a cloaked Goa'uld Hatak mothership monitored Cheyenne Mountain. But this wasn't Apophis's ship. The ship's commander studied the data his spies had gathered, the dimensional frequencies, the pyramid locations, the ThunderCats' capabilities, and smiled behind his serpent guard helmet. Baal had always been the most cunning of the system lords. While Apophis rushed in with force, Baal preferred strategy. Let the Tauri and their feline allies do the dangerous work of identifying and stabilizing pyramids. Let them think they were winning. And when enough nodes were secure, when the network was nearly complete and Mumm-Ra's reunification truly impossible, then Baal would strike. Not to free the Ever-Living, but to claim the stabilized network itself. 43 pyramids containing ancient technology and dimensional bridge capabilities. Power beyond anything the system lords currently possessed. Apophis saw the pyramids as weapons. Baal saw them as infrastructure. The foundation for an empire that would span not just galaxies, but realities. The game had only just begun. And Baal played the long game better than anyone. But that was a threat for another mission. Another dimension. Another day. For now, on Earth, in this reality, in this moment, the ThunderCats and SG-1 had proven that courage, honor, and teamwork could challenge even ancient imprisonment spanning the multiverse. The Stargate stood ready. Dimensional coordinates were locked. Equipment was prepared. Allies were committed. And when the gate activated next, they would step through together, humans and ThunderCats, soldiers and warriors, scientists and philosophers, into whatever reality awaited them. Because that's what heroes do. They face the impossible. They stand against the darkness. They fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. One dimension at a time. One pyramid at a time. Until Mumm-Ra's threat was ended and the multiverse was safe. Thunder, thunder, thunder. The legends of the ThunderCats were spreading across dimensions now. And in SGC mission files, a new designation appeared beside every member of Lion-O's team. Status, active. Mission, Pyramid Watch. Classification, essential personnel. Clearance, interdimensional. The adventure had only just begun.